Hello everyone, I'm very glad that you listened to my story. Please give me a follow and like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and provide feedback so I can improve the sound quality. Yes, I will now continue the unfinished story. Chapter 49, Chapter 49, Everything is Ready. Chapter 49, Everything is Ready. Ling Hanjun stood rooted to the spot, unable to do anything as he watched Chen Fei make his escape. If only the two archers were still alive, they might have been able to slow Chen Fei down to some extent. However, those two individuals had met their demise swiftly. You won't get away. Ling Hanjun gritted his teeth and turned his attention to tending to his subordinates' injuries. Meanwhile, Chen Fei swiftly made his way back to another rented courtyard in Pingying County. To prepare for any unforeseen circumstances, Chen Fei had rented multiple courtyards throughout the county to ensure he had alternative places to stay. This bow technique is quite effective, but this longbow is a bit lacking, Chen Fei thought to himself, a smile playing on his lips. He realized that while the bow and arrow were useful against opponents in the body tempering realm, they would struggle against those in the bone tempering realm, particularly against Ling Hanjun, whose archery skills were top-notch. When I venture to other locations, 111 have to seize the opportunity to acquire a better bow. And, of course, one must not neglect my cultivation level, Chen Fei resolved. He understood that to truly excel in archery, he needed both the right equipment and sufficient personal cultivation. Taking a moment to reflect, Chen Fei recognized the significance of cultivating his internal strength as the foundation. Without a strong foundation, even the best bow would be rendered useless if he couldn't draw it properly. Chen Fei retrieved the wooden cabinet from the space grid and organized the silver into different compartments according to a predetermined ratio. This way, it would be convenient to access and utilize the funds when needed. The following morning, as the Zhao family went about their routine of delivering medicinal herbs, they stumbled upon a grim scene. Several alchemists were found dead, and when they arrived at Chen Fei's courtyard, all they discovered was bloodstains on the ground. Chen Fei had vanished without a trace. He was neither seen alive nor found dead. The Zhao family, consumed by rage, joined forces with the rebel army to launch a thorough search throughout Pingying County in an effort to find Chen Fei and seek vengeance. Meanwhile, Chen Fei, disguising himself as an ordinary person, continued to go about his daily activities, purchasing various items in the county. Whether it was food, water, or any other necessities he deemed necessary, Chen Fei made sure to acquire them. In less than a day, Chen Fei had filled the wooden cabinet within the space grid to its capacity. He paid particular attention to stocking up on food, ensuring he was well prepared. While finding food in the wilderness was typically feasible, Chen Fei harbored concerns about unforeseen circumstances. With the aid of the space grid, weight was no longer an issue, allowing him to carry as much as he could. The next morning, Chen Fei looked at the steaming buns in his hands with a strange expression. These were the buns he had put into the space yesterday. After 8 hours, the buns were still hot, just like when he had placed them inside. This space grid is quite powerful. It's like time stops inside, various thoughts raced through Chen Fei's mind. However, he now only had one space grid at his disposal, so he couldn't conduct extensive experiments to fully comprehend its capabilities. Since time seemed to stop inside the space grid, Chen Fei realized that he no longer needed to worry about food spoiling. Deciding to treat himself a little better, he took out all the dry food he had prepared and set off to go shopping once again. Due to the Zhao family's intense search throughout Pingying County, the streets were deserted, and the people remained hidden inside their homes, seeking safety amidst the chaotic atmosphere. After swiftly purchasing the necessary items, Chen Fei hurried back to the safety of his courtyard, opting not to linger outside any longer. Initially, he had intended to visit Zheng Difang, as Zheng had treated him kindly at the clinic. Chen Fei had even considered helping Zheng Difang and his family leave Pingying County. However, With Zheng Difang being gravely injured and having his family with him, it was impossible for the rebel army to allow an alchemist of such value to depart. Considering the circumstances, Chen Fei decided to prioritize his own safety and the completion of his own mission. Having confirmed the resources in the space grid were intact, Chen Fei settled into a cross-legged position and began cultivating his inner strength. The tranquil sound of his breathing filled the room, and the night passed by peacefully. In the early morning, Chen Fei concealed his true identity and left the city, appearing as an ordinary person. Passing through the city gate was uneventful, as very few individuals possessed the ability to see through his disguise. Chen Fei had perfected his disguise technique, making it challenging for ordinary people to perceive any discrepancies. A few miles away from the city, Chen Fei spotted the designated meeting place Wind-Moving Stone. Rather than approaching immediately, he chose to find a vantage point from which to observe. As the appointed time drew near, figures slowly began to emerge at the location. Surveying his surroundings, Chen Fei found no signs of an ambush, suggesting that it was unlikely to be a trap. Chen Fei checked the time and wasted no time, swiftly leaping through the treetops until he reached the location. As he arrived, the others present turned their attention toward him. Judging from the deliberate display of his movement technique, it was evident that Chen Fei possessed skills on par with ordinary martial artists in the bone-tempering realm. Sometimes, one's strength could be assessed through such demonstrations without engaging in actual combat. When Chen Fei spotted Qi Difeng, the two nodded at each other without exchanging words. The gathering participants covertly assessed one another. Chen Fei glanced around briefly but soon ceased his observation. It was apparent that everyone present were martial artists with cultivated skills, not ordinary individuals. It appears that it's just us. Qian Zhejiang's words reverberated in the air, and a deep silence fell upon the gathering. Everyone's attention was fixated on him as he declared, "One won't say anything else. 300 taels per person. I'll take the lead on this journey to Apricot Fen City." His announcement sparked an uproar among the attendees. The price far exceeded most people's expectations, and even for martial artists, accumulating such a sum was a daunting task. 300 taels is quite expensive. Can you lower the price? Someone questioned, voicing the concerns of many. We're meant to support each other on this journey. Asking for 300 taels seems excessive. The atmosphere grew tense as the participants voiced their reservations and sought a more reasonable arrangement. Qian Zhejiang maintained a smile on his face as he raised his hand and replied, "I understand that it's expensive, and I won't force anyone to pay. It's entirely voluntary." The group exchanged glances, realizing that the situation outside was chaotic and there were no caravans available. It would be risky for them to venture to other cities alone, even as martial artists. One of the participants asked cautiously, "Boss Qian, if we pay this money, can you guarantee our safety throughout the journey?" Qian Zhejiang shook his head, his smile fading slightly. "One can't make that guarantee. All I can promise is that we'll stick together and support each other when the need arises." A person snorted coldly, questioning why they needed to travel to other places when they could remain in Pingyang County and live comfortably with the money they had. They turned and left. Another individual hesitated briefly before following suit. After a moment, only 6 people remained in the group, having chosen to accept the terms set forth by Qian Zhejiang. Chen Fei looked at Qi Difeng in surprise, not expecting him to be willing to pay such a substantial amount. Knowing Qi Difeng's love for money and his desire to offload the counterfeit medicine, it was quite unexpected. Qian Zhejiang smiled as the others departed, stating, "It's safer with fewer people." As the remaining members prepared to pay, Qi Difeng stepped forward and handed over the 300 taels of silver. One by one, the rest followed suit, paying the agreed amount. Chen Fei deliberately stuffed 500 taels of silver into the large bag on his back as a precautionary measure. After counting the silver, he handed it to Qian Zhejiang. "Done. Since we'll be traveling together, let's introduce ourselves, so we can watch out for one another along the way, Qianzhijiang said, accepting the silver. The smile on his face grew even brighter. Chapter 50, Mountain Village. Chapter 50, Mountain Village. Yanqing, Yanding, dual swords. The couple proudly presented their swords. Qi Defeng, staff technique, Qi Defeng declared. Feng Yu, crutches. An elderly woman tapped her walking stick with determination. As Chen Fei glanced at the old woman, a faint, sweet scent wafted into his nose. It was the scent of poison. He couldn't help but sniff lightly, recognizing the distinctive odor. Chen Mu, archery. Chen Fei announced, patting the longbow on his back. All right, it's getting late. Let's set off, Qianzhijiang spoke, acknowledging the time constraint. If all went well, they would reach Apricot Fen City in approximately 5 days. With a nod, Qianzhijiang led the way, and the rest followed suit, embarking on their journey. Being martial artists, they possessed superior physical strength and movement techniques, making them much faster than ordinary individuals. While they couldn't rival the speed of a horse, their pace was definitely not sluggish. Chen Fei cast a glance back at Pingying County, but due to the distance, only faint outlines were visible. Having spent several months in this county, he had transformed from a struggling handyman who could barely afford meat to a skilled individual. It brought a wave of emotions to Chen Fei's heart. Glancing down at the mark on his arm, Chen Fei observed that the further he moved away from Pingying County, the less active the mark became. Previously, he had worried that the mark would attract formidable adversaries. However, it appeared that the mark served only to afflict Chen Fei with a negative state. The mark's effects were potent, capable of draining an ordinary person completely. However, Chen Fei's rapid improvement allowed him to suppress the mark's influence. Another possibility was that, compared to the abundant food source in Pingying County, Chen Fei, as an insignificant entity, did not attract the attention of the mysterious creature at all. After traversing for over 2 hours, the group halted to take a break. In the dense forest, Qi Defeng eagerly looked at Qianzhijiang and remarked, "There's nobody here. Let's hurry up and divide the money." Qianzhijiang chuckled, observing Qi Defeng with a mixture of amusement and scolding, "What's the rush? It's not like I'm not going to give it to you. You old fool, you're actually willing to leave Pingying County," Qianzhijiang continued, shaking his head with a smile. "I thought you would die of old age there. There's something strange happening at Mount Pingying, and one can't bring myself to stay there any longer," Qi Defeng responded, accepting the several hundred taels of silver from Qianzhijiang. He shook his head, expressing his unease. "Especially in recent days, I've been unable to sleep or eat well. One have a feeling that something significant is about to occur in Pingying County." Qianzhijiang's expression shifted, realizing the gravity of his old friend's words. It explained why Qi Defeng had been insistent on leaving Pingying County. "Will you continue on after we reach Apricot Fen City?" Qianzhijiang inquired. Qi Defeng pondered for a moment before shaking his head. "We'll assess the situation when the time comes." A few dozen meters away, Chen Fei returned from the restroom and noticed Qi Defeng and Qianzhijiang engaged in a hushed conversation. His teeth clenched with anticipation. Although he was unaware of the specifics, he knew that money was undoubtedly involved. At first, Chen Fei had suspected that Qi Defeng and Qianzhijiang knew each other, as Qi Defeng had readily handed over the money without hesitation. Such behavior didn't align with someone driven by greed. However, Chen Fei didn't harbor any ill feelings toward the money. Compared to leaving Pingying County, the sum was insignificant. With his mastery of alchemy, earning that amount would merely require a few batches of pills. After a brief rest, the group resumed their journey. Initially, they followed a well-defined main road. However, as they ventured further, the road became increasingly indistinct. It was evident that it had been a long time since trade caravans had traversed these routes, with weeds now overgrowing the path. The group pressed on, encountering no significant events along the way. They did, however, come across a few refugees, whom they intentionally kept their distance from. Qianzhijiang mentioned, there should be a dilapidated temple nearby. We can find shelter there for the night. Qianzhijiang surveyed the surroundings and identified the direction of the dilapidated temple. In his earlier years, Qianzhijiang had been a member of the bodyguard agency, allowing him to gain extensive travel experience. However, he had retired in recent years with the intention of enjoying a peaceful life in Pingyang County. Fate had other plans, forcing him to embark on this journey due to unforeseen circumstances. Leading the group, Qianzhijiang guided them through a few twists and turns until they finally reached the dilapidated temple. Chen Fei's heart tightened upon seeing the temple. It reminded him of the two previous encounters with the monsters, both of which had taken place in similar settings. However, given the need for rest and shelter from the elements, it was inevitable to seek refuge there. The dilapidated temple appeared ancient, with a disarrayed interior. It was evident that many people had recently sought solace within its walls. The group gathered together, quietly consuming their dry rations. Chen Fei maintained a vigilant gaze, scanning his surroundings but finding nothing out of the ordinary. He felt the presence of the mark on his arm, but there was no indication of anything unusual. Chen Fei pondered the usefulness of the gangrene mark. It had become a peculiar sensor for him, proving effective in most situations. This led him to consider continuing to leave similar marks on his body once his inner strength grew stronger. The night passed peacefully, devoid of any run-ins with evil entities. Chen Fei sighed in relief, realizing that while the outside world may be tumultuous, not every place was plagued by abnormalities. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had elapsed. As the journey progressed, the weariness became evident on the faces of the group. However, they also grew more acquainted with one another along the way, fostering a sense of camaraderie. The smooth progression of their journey helped to calm their hearts. Qianzhijiang's exceptional sense of direction proved to be a valuable asset, and Chen Fei felt grateful to be part of this team. Without their guidance, he would have been lost and left to wander aimlessly once the food in his space grid ran out. We'll be spending the night in the forest. Let's pick up the pace, everyone, Qianzhijiang urged, glancing at the sky. The others nodded in agreement, instinctively quickening their steps to keep up with his instructions. There's a light up ahead. The group directed their attention towards the flickering lights in the distance, their curiosity piqued. Yanqing's surprise was evident as she pointed toward the source of the lights. Qi Defeng turned to Qianzhijiang, questioning whether there was a nearby village. Is there a village nearby? Qianzhijiang's brow furrowed slightly as his memory was not as sharp as it once was. Having been out of the loop for many years, he only retained general knowledge and couldn't recall everything with precision. Feng Yu, the old woman, suggested, should we stay in the village? It would be safer than the wilderness. If we have the option, I think it's better to go to the village. The others turned their gaze towards Qianzhijiang, allowing him to make the final decision. After some consideration, Qianzhijiang spoke, no. The outside world is in chaos, and the sudden appearance of a village seems suspicious. We should go around it. Qianzhijiang and the others shook their heads, maintaining their determination to avoid the village. They altered their course, veering away from the flickering lights, and continued onward with an increased speed. It seemed as though an unspoken urge compelled them to distance themselves from the village as much as possible. Once again, Yanqing pointed out, there's a light up ahead. Everyone's gaze shifted toward the direction Yanqing indicated. They could see lights flickering in the distance. Qi Defeng turned to Qianzhijiang, inquiring, is there a village nearby? Qianzhijiang sighed, realizing that his memory was failing him. He couldn't recall such specific details. I'm not certain. We should proceed with caution. Fen Yu, the old woman, lowered her voice and asked, "Should we stay in the village? It would be safer than the wilderness. If we have the option, one think it's better to go to the village." The group exchanged glances, uncertain about what to do next. As Chen Fei listened to the conversation, he suddenly felt a surge of clarity as the clear heart formula spontaneously activated within him. His mind became clear, and he couldn't help but notice that something was amiss. This conversation, this scene, it had already occurred. Why were they going through it again? And hadn't they just decided to avoid the village? An unsettling realization struck Chen Fei. Could it be that they had all lost their memories? He surveyed his surroundings and noticed that a thin veil of white fog had started to envelop the area, reducing visibility significantly. Strangely, the village in the distance seemed to be growing clearer amidst the fog. Chapter 51, Running for Life. Chapter 51, Running for Life. Chen Fei witnessed a sudden burst of red light emanating from Qianzhijiang's chest, followed by a swirling cloud of charred black smoke. Qianzhijiang writhed in pain, his voice filled with disbelief. "No, we were just here." As the pain subsided, Qianzhijiang's eyes regained clarity, and he surveyed the surroundings. The sight of the mountain village in the distance caused his face to pale. It became apparent that something strange was happening, and they were trapped in a bewitching spell. Chen Fei, alarmed by the situation, asked Qianzhijiang, "How do we wake them up?" He marveled at Qianzhijiang's ability to resist the spell, knowing that without the aid of the clear heart formula, he would have likely fallen under its influence. Qianzhijiang, though surprised by Chen Fei's resilience, was too preoccupied to inquire further about his well-being. Qianzhijiang swiftly took out an incense stick from his bag and ignited it. As a thin trail of green smoke dispersed into the air, Yan Qing and the rest of the group suddenly snapped out of their bewitched state. Their gazes turned towards the mountain village in the distance, their expressions filled with alarm. Realizing that something was amiss, Yan Qing exclaimed, "There's something peculiar about that mountain village. Let's get out of here." Without wasting any time on explanations, Qianzhijiang sprinted forward, urging the others to follow closely behind. Feeling the urgency in the air, the group wasted no time, moving swiftly to escape from the encroaching danger. Chen Fei maintained his focus, continuously circulating the clear heart formula to keep himself calm amidst the chaotic situation. The cold sensation brought a sense of clarity, allowing him to see further ahead. However, his initial joy quickly turned into unease as he realized that the extended view revealed not another road but a small mountain village. Contrary to their intentions of avoiding it, the group was inexplicably getting closer and closer to the village. The once distant houses became clearer, standing in an orderly manner amidst fertile fields and mulberry trees. The village appeared idyllic, like a paradise. However, a sense of foreboding lingered as the figures within the village became more discernible, almost as if they were beckoning the group to come closer. Chen Fei's urgent warning caught the attention of the group, causing them to halt their advance. Qianzhijiang, acknowledging Chen Fei's ability to wake from the spell earlier, regarded his words seriously. Anxious, Qianzhijiang inquired, "What did you see?" Chen Fei's expression darkened as he relayed his observation. "One saw houses, farmhouses, and numerous people standing there, facing us." A wave of discomfort swept over Chen Fei, intensified by the chilling sensation from the gangrene mark on his arm. He realized that passing this trial was crucial if he wanted to reach Apricot Fen City. "Old Qian, we need to find a way out of this. Any ideas?" Qi Defeng turned to Qianzhijiang, placing his hopes on the experienced martial artist. Qianzhijiang, sensing the urgency of the situation, took the lead and called for everyone to follow closely. He retrieved a half-red candle from his bag, an item seemingly ordinary yet significant in this predicament. With a tinge of reluctance, he carefully lit the wick, and a circle of vibrant red light emanated, encompassing the group. As the red light enveloped them, a sense of tranquility washed over Qianzhijiang's heart, dispelling the chilling cold that had gripped him earlier. Simultaneously, the red light seemed to repel the surrounding fog, causing it to disperse as if cowering from the candle's illumination. "Run!" Qianzhijiang's voice resonated with determination as he dashed forward. The others, realizing the importance of keeping up, hurriedly followed suit, their footsteps resounding in unison as they fled from the encroaching village, protected by the red light of the candle. The group of 6 displayed impressive movement techniques, allowing them to keep up with Qianzhijiang's intense pace. Gradually, the fog ahead began to dissipate, and the small mountain village ceased to reappear. This brought some relief to everyone's hearts, for the mere sight of that village threatened to drive them mad. Suddenly, Qianzhijiang's face turned frighteningly pale, and he shouted urgently, "No, no, stop, stop!" Confusion filled the eyes of his companions as they turned to look at him. However, Chen Fei noticed that the red candle in Qianzhijiang's hand had already burned more than half in just a short while. To Chen Fei's astonishment, the candle continued to shrink at a visible rate. At this pace, it would be extinguished within 15 minutes. "What's the matter?" Qi Defeng asked, perplexed. "The candle is burning too fast. We haven't escaped the peculiarity, instead, we've unknowingly drawn closer to it." Qianzhijiang held the candle and tested it in 4 directions, realizing that only the southeast direction burned at a slower pace. "This way!" Qianzhijiang exclaimed, leading the way as he rushed forward. Chen Fei scanned his surroundings, his heart filled with trepidation. The clear heart formula had served him well, allowing him to maintain his mental clarity. However, it became apparent that mere lucidity was insufficient. Unless he escaped this place, he would likely fall victim to the lurking horrors that awaited him. Particularly at this moment, the chilling sensation of a presence behind him sent shivers down Chen Fei's spine. It felt as though those evil entities were poised to pounce upon him in the next instant. "The mountain village has reappeared," Feng Yu suddenly shouted, pointing in the distance. Everyone turned to look and confirmed that it was indeed the same village they had encountered earlier. Despite their efforts to forge ahead, it seemed as though they had inadvertently circled back to their starting point. In that moment, the red candle in Qianzhijiang's grasp had dwindled to less than 30% of its original size. "This is burning too fast," Qianzhijiang lamented, observing the diminished candle before turning his gaze toward the distant village. Determination etched on his face, he clenched his teeth and retrieved another candle from his bag. However, this one was different from its predecessor, for it was pure white in color. "This anomaly is exceedingly powerful. Our only option now is to take a gamble. Otherwise, none of us will be able to escape this place today," Qianzhijiang spoke in a solemn tone. "What is it that you propose?" Qi Defeng inquired. "I will ignite this white candle and throw it away. This white candle possesses the opposite effect of the red one. It will attract the malevolent entities," Qianzhijiang explained. "Consequently, our future will be fraught with danger. We must run as swiftly as we can." Qianzhijiang's voice dropped to a whisper as he continued, "This act amounts to risking our lives. However, if we fail to take this step, we will likely remain trapped in this cycle indefinitely." As the red candles neared depletion, the realization struck that the entire group would meet their demise once the flames extinguished. Yanqing and the others exchanged worried glances, yet they refrained from impeding Qianzhijiang's course of action, recognizing that no superior alternative presented itself. In this dire moment, they had no choice but to heed Qianzhijiang's instructions. Qianzhijiang bowed his head, igniting the white candle. A peculiar scent emanated from its flickering flame. Exerting all his might, Qianzhijiang hurled the white candle behind him. Despite its constant wavering, the white candle stubbornly refused to be snuffed out. In the ensuing instant, Qianzhijiang clutched the dwindling red candle and dashed forward with wild abandon. His speed had surged by over 50% compared to before, leaving the rest of the group astounded by his newfound swiftness. Only Chen Fei managed to maintain a steady pace, steadfastly trailing behind Qian Zhejiang. Qi Defeng followed closely behind Chen Fei. Meanwhile, Yan Qing and Yan Ding let out muted cries before thrusting their swords into each other as if driven to a desperate and tragic end. As the scent of blood permeated the air, Yan Qing and Yan Ding vanished abruptly, their forms seamlessly merging with Qi Defeng's presence. Simultaneously, the elderly woman, Feng Yu, swiftly ingested a pill, causing a green aura to manifest on her countenance. Taking a single step, she effortlessly outpaced Yan Qing and the others, determinedly pursuing Qi Defeng. A hollow laughter seemed to echo through the forest while the surrounding fog grew denser. Fortunately, the fog billowed behind them, gradually thinning in the direction they were heading. Everyone's expressions displayed a mixture of astonishment and relief. The white candle had indeed proven effective, dispelling the incessant sensation of being watched. Chapter 52, Chapter 52, Cloud-Devouring Force. Chapter 52, Cloud-Devouring Force. Qian Zhejiang's face flushed red as he observed the candle burning rapidly in his hand, causing him to breathe a sigh of relief. When he turned his head to look at the others, he noticed that they had already followed him. However, just as he was about to avert his gaze, his eyes caught sight of Feng Yu, the elderly woman. To his surprise, Feng Yu's face had turned green, but that was not the most unsettling part. Her eyes had transformed into a pitch-black hue, unnoticed by anyone else. They lacked normal human emotions and exuded only a chilling coldness. Chen Fei, who was trailing behind Qian Zhejiang, felt his heart tremble when he witnessed the sudden and drastic change in Qian Zhejiang's expression. He turned around and beheld the peculiar countenance of Feng Yu. Seemingly aware of their scrutiny, Feng Yu's lips gradually curled into a smile that extended all the way to her ears. A shiver coursed down Qian Zhejiang's spine, causing his senses to heighten. Without wasting any time, he reached for his bow and swiftly aimed it at Feng Yu. The urgency of the situation propelled everyone to sprint with all their might, but Chen Fei managed to retain some strength. Sensing an opportunity, Chen Fei abruptly turned around and released the arrow he held, sending it hurtling toward Feng Yu. Just as the arrow was about to reach Feng Yu, an unexpected and gruesome occurrence unfolded. Her head violently exploded, resulting in a gruesome spectacle of flesh, blood, and a peculiar green mist dispersing in all directions. Chen Fei instinctively held his breath, yet he still felt a wave of dizziness engulfing his mind. He glanced down at his exposed skin, which had already taken on a sickly green hue. Emerging from the dissipating green mist, Chen Fei found a medicine bottle materializing in his hand. Reacting swiftly, he consumed 3 to 4 detoxification pills from the bottle, hoping to counteract the mysterious toxin. Realizing the urgency of the situation, Chen Fei tossed the remaining pills to his companions. Acting on instinct, they caught the pills and swiftly ingested them upon realizing they were antidotes. Caught off guard by Feng Yu's sudden attack, the group relied on their extensive martial arts experience to instinctively hold their breath, averting immediate danger. Consuming the antidote pills had successfully suppressed the poison coursing through their bodies. A heavy silence enveloped them as they remained oblivious to the moment Feng Yu had become possessed. Pressing forward, they covered their heads and continued running, uncertain of the duration that had elapsed. Eventually, it was Qian Zhejiang who halted first, his body trembling with exertion. He forcefully expelled a mouthful of blood, and his flushed face gradually eased. Remarkably, the red candle he held burned serenely, and the fog that had once enshrouded him had dissipated, granting a temporary respite. Qi Defeng's complexion turned alarmingly pale, indicating his imminent collapse. Yan Qing and Yan Ding, on the other hand, were drenched in blood, their faces displaying a bone-chilling pallor. Chen Fei, though exhausted, fared relatively better compared to his companions. The intense battle had drained his physical strength even more due to the rampant gangrene that had afflicted him. Nevertheless, his condition remained superior to that of the others. Qianzhijiang, taking a deep breath, suggested, "Let's proceed a bit further and find a place to rest." Despite being out of immediate danger, he felt an overwhelming sense of unease lingering in their vicinity. To ensure their safety, he believed it was prudent to put more distance between themselves and their previous location. No one voiced any objections, recognizing the importance of prioritizing their well-being. By this point, the group had developed a significant level of trust in Qianzhijiang. The 300 taels they had invested in him proved to be a worthwhile expenditure. Without his guidance and leadership, the consequences of today's events would have been disastrous, potentially resulting in numerous casualties or even the annihilation of the entire army. Chen Fei's gaze shifted toward the red candle still held in Qianzhijiang's hand. He made a silent vow to himself that once they had a chance to clarify the situation, he would purchase several dozen candles and store them in their space compartment. The outside world was fraught with danger, and having a supply of these candles seemed like a necessary precaution. After walking for half an hour, Qianzhijiang eventually came to a stop. He meticulously surveyed their surroundings, ensuring their safety, before nodding at everyone. Only then did a collective sense of relief wash over the group. After surviving a calamity, he still had lingering fears. Having found a suitable location to establish their camp, the group settled down for a nap. Chen Fei positioned himself in a cross-legged posture, engaging in the cultivation of the suspending force to gradually restore his strength. The night passed without any untoward incidents, and they resumed their journey during the day. However, despite their continuous progress, the weariness that plagued them seemed to dissipate. Each member appeared to possess an unprecedented level of energy, surpassing even their previous state of relaxation. Qi Defeng, in particular, expressed his exhaustion by lamenting, "One must be extremely fatigued. One can even smell the tantalizing aroma of roast meat from the drunken fragrance restaurant. It's so tempting." Pausing momentarily to catch his breath, Chen Fei glanced at Qi Defeng, marveling at his remarkable sense of smell. In a desperate attempt to appease him earlier, Chen Fei had retrieved some roasted meat from their space compartment and devoured it discreetly while Qi Defeng was away attending to nature's call. Yet, upon his return, Qi Defeng immediately detected the scent. Chuckling at Qi Defeng's remark, Qianzhijiang interjected, "The roast meat from the drunken fragrance restaurant is nothing compared to what awaits us in Apricot Fen City tomorrow. Consider it my treat." His eyes twinkled mischievously as he playfully teased Qi Defeng. Despite having used up a significant portion of the red candle, and the white candle being completely depleted, reaching Apricot Fen City safely would still be considered a triumph for Qianzhijiang. As the city's silhouette came into view, a surge of relief washed over the entire group. Their hearts stirred with a mixture of emotions, realizing that they had finally arrived at their destination. Qi Defeng chuckled, acknowledging Qianzhijiang's leadership with a respectful wave of his hand. No further words were necessary, their unspoken appreciation was deeply felt among them. Pressing on with their journey, alternating between periods of hurried travel and necessary rest, they had managed to overcome various challenges along the way. Finally, the distinct outline of Apricot Fen City came into focus, casting a sense of anticipation in everyone's hearts. They couldn't help but feel a jolt of excitement, knowing that they had successfully reached their destination. Reflecting on the past 5 days, they realized that, despite encountering difficulties, it hadn't been an excessively arduous journey for martial artists of their physical prowess had it not been for the unexpected events in that village. Nevertheless, the eerie and horrifying events they had witnessed along the way had left the 5 of them shaken to their cores. The untimely demise of Feng Yu, in particular, had cast a deep shadow over their spirits. Subconsciously, they quickened their pace, propelled by a mix of fear and urgency. After an hour's journey, they finally reached the gates of Apricot Fen City. Compared to the comparatively modest walls of Pingying County, Apricot Fen City loomed larger and more imposing. The sheer height of the city walls served as a testament to its grandeur. Contrasting with the lifelessness of Pingyang County, Apricot Fen City bustled with vitality, its streets teeming with people. Having paid the entrance fee, the five of them stood on the vibrant street, exchanging glances. Yan Qing and his wife, filled with gratitude for their companions, bowed respectfully and swiftly disappeared from the corner of the street. Since we have arrived in Apricot Fen City, we will no longer trouble the three of you, Yan Qing conveyed with heartfelt sincerity. Turning his attention to Chen Fei, Qi Defeng inquired, "What are your plans?" His gaze held a mixture of curiosity and expectation. After a brief moment of contemplation, Chen Fei responded, "One intend to continue my journey toward Immortal Cloud City." His decision firmly formed in his mind, and he expressed his determination. Considering the stable environment and potential access to a wider array of cultivation techniques manuals, Immortal Cloud City held great appeal to Chen Fei. It offered a stark contrast to Pingyang County, where resources were tightly guarded. The prospects of joining the Immortal Cloud Sword sect aside, Chen Fei believed that the city would provide a conducive environment for his gradual development. Qian Zhejiang, wearing a smile, suggested, "Apricot Fen City should have caravans heading to Immortal Cloud City. It would be safer for you to travel with one of them." He offered his advice with genuine concern for Chen Fei's well-being. Indeed, the Immortal Cloud Sword sect's reputation precedes it, unparalleled in the world, Qi Defeng interjected, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. He turned to Chen Fei, soft laughter escaping his lips. "Why don't we go together? I'm eager to see it for myself." Chen Fei, appreciating the invitation, cupped his hands in gratitude. "I would be honored to have the company of you both." With their plans settled, the trio felt a surge of excitement. Qian Zhejiang's suggestion prompted them to take action. "Let's not waste time standing around. We should find a good inn and enjoy a hearty meal," Qian Zhejiang declared, the sound of laughter resonating among them. They continued along the lively street, eagerly venturing toward their next destination. Night descended upon Apricot Fen City, and within the comfort of his guest room, Chen Fei assumed a cross-legged position. Having indulged in a satisfying meal and drink, he now focused on his cultivation practice. Meanwhile, Qian Zhejiang ventured outside, taking a stroll in search of information. It didn't take long before he received news that the Immortal Cloud Merchant Band, after over a month's journey from various locations, was scheduled to arrive in Apricot Fen City. The caravan's ultimate destination was Immortal Cloud City, a name that carried considerable weight and significance. This indicated the immense power and influence of the merchant band. The prospect of hitching a ride with the Immortal Cloud Merchant Band presented a significant advantage. It ensured a secure and protected journey to Immortal Cloud City. With this realization, the three companions could envision the safety and reliability that such a powerful caravan would provide. With the intention of acquiring new pill formulas and cultivation techniques, Chen Fei acknowledged the substantial cost involved and was willing to spend the necessary amount. He understood the importance of having a diverse range of resources in order to continue their pill-selling endeavors. Muttering to himself, Chen Fei contemplated the possibilities as he closed his eyes, allowing his thoughts to drift. The following morning, Chen Fei found himself standing in front of a shop that specialized in selling various items, including weapons, pills, and cultivation techniques. Determined to find an inner strength cultivation technique, he expressed his request to the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper responded promptly by presenting a secret manual from the shelf, explaining that it was obtained from a sect disciple who had been compelled to sell it. As Chen Fei laid eyes on the secret manual, his expression underwent a subtle change. It was the cloud-devouring force. Chapter 53, Chapter 53, Shocking Swallowing Art. Chapter 53, Shocking Swallowing Art. Will there be any trouble after learning this cultivation technique? Chen Fei asked in a low voice. Many sects would pursue leaked cultivation techniques, especially those involving inner strength. When he was in Pingying County, Qianfei didn't mind. After all, the place was small, and the chances of being discovered were very low, even if he learned from other sects. However, they were currently in Apricot Fen City, and later on, Qianfei was planning to go to Immortal Cloud City. With more choices at hand, Qianfei naturally had to exercise extra caution. Don't worry about this, my friend. That sect is already in decline, and he is the sole successor. There would be no trouble if you were to learn this secret manual. Instead, you would help in preserving and passing on the cultivation technique, the shopkeeper said with a reassuring smile. Qianfei nodded slightly, picked up the secret manual, and began reading it slowly. After 15 minutes, he put the manual down. Although only 1/3 of the secret manual remained, he could already discern numerous insights from it. While it couldn't compare to the thunderous sword force, it was considerably more potent than the suspending force. Moreover, there was something uniquely extraordinary about the cloud-devouring force. After cultivating the cloud-devouring force, the number of pills Qianfei consumed daily could actually increase. In simpler terms, this technique enabled cultivators to absorb pills at a faster rate without burdening their bodies. Just this benefit alone made Qianfei's heart race with anticipation. At present, Qianfei could only take 1 light spirit pill per day. Consuming more would cause his meridians to swell and his blood and qi to become abnormal. If this happened occasionally, it wouldn't pose a significant risk. However, prolonged exposure to such conditions would undoubtedly have adverse effects on his body. Therefore, Qianfei tried it a few times before exercising caution and returning to his regular routine of taking 1 light spirit pill each day. What's the price? Qianfei inquired. 1,000 taels, the shopkeeper replied, his smile widening. Irritated by the exorbitant price, Qianfei abruptly put down the secret manual and turned to leave. He wasn't about to be taken advantage of. Hang on. We can negotiate the price. Additionally, we have a variety of pills and weapons in the shop. You may want to take a look, the shopkeeper hastily called out, hoping to salvage the potential sale. Pausing for a moment, Qianfei halted his steps and turned back to face the shopkeeper. Do you have any crossbows? He inquired. Of course we do. Please come inside, the shopkeeper nodded, leading Qianfei into the inner hall. The assortment of weapons displayed in the shop was even more diverse than Qianfei had expected. The shopkeeper guided him to a wall adorned with various bows and crossbows. Can I try them? Qianfei asked, seeking the shopkeeper's permission to try them out. Go ahead, sir, the shopkeeper nodded, giving his consent. Qianfei stepped forward, selecting a longbow and attempting to draw it. His expression remained unchanged. He then set aside the longbow and picked up another one. He continued this process for an hour, meticulously testing each bow. Afterward, Qianfei left the shop, having made his selection. The morning quietly passed, and he returned to the inn. The longbow he had originally brought from Pingying County had been sold and replaced with a far more powerful bow. In comparison to his previous longbow, the new one was undeniably superior in strength and quality. Based on Qianfei's assessment, the newly acquired longbow would serve him well even up to the bone-tempering realm. He was pleased with his choice. Additionally, Qianfei had a good understanding of the prices of medicinal pills. In Pingying County, the standard market price for a qi rejuvenation pill was 10 taels per pill, whereas, in Apricot Fen City, it was 8 taels per pill. The price of light spirit pills had also dropped from 15 taels to 13 taels per pill. The significant decrease in prices was evident, explaining the prevalence of caravans in the area. The price disparity indicated that there were substantial profits to be made, provided there was an ample supply of these medicinal pills. In light of this, Qianfei took advantage of Apricot Fen City's offerings and purchased some eternal floating pills. Although they were quite expensive, costing nearly 30 taels per pill, Chen Fei wanted to test if his current cultivation level in the body tempering realm could handle the consumption of these pills for further advancement. Furthermore, he had plans to decipher the formula for the eternal floating pill. However, Chen Fei's hopes were dashed when he discovered that Apricot Fen City did not sell the recipe for the eternal floating pill. This left him somewhat disappointed. On the other hand, the formula for the light spirit pill was available for purchase, albeit at a steep price of several thousand taels. One underestimated the value of pill formulas, Chen Fei muttered to himself as he attempted to swallow one of the pills. After 2 hours, he opened his eyes, wearing a slightly disappointed expression. The effect of the eternal floating pill was undeniably potent, but Chen Fei experienced intense swelling and pain in his meridians, surpassing the discomfort of taking 2 light spirit pills consecutively. It became evident that the eternal floating pill was too overwhelming for someone in the body tempering realm, and Chen Fei couldn't handle its effects. I wonder if the cloud-devouring force can alleviate the situation as the secret manual claims, Chen Fei pondered. He retrieved the secret manual from his bag. After visiting more than 10 shops, Chen Fei had spent a total of 300 taels of silver purchasing this cultivation technique from different establishments. Interestingly, in Apricot Fen City, nearly all the slightly larger shops were now selling this same cultivation technique manual. Chen Fei couldn't ascertain whether the sect's disciple had leaked the secret manual to multiple stores or if the shops had obtained it from one another. The first shop Chen Fei encountered seemed to have taken advantage of his unfamiliarity and purposely inflated the price. They were clearly trying to maximize their profits. Annoyed by this realization, Chen Fei continued his cultivation and spent hours thoroughly reading through the cloud-devouring force cultivation technique. He then attempted to circulate it within his body. Moments later, Chen Fei glanced at the interface that appeared before him: cultivation method, cloud-devouring force, beginner 1/100. Determined to further enhance his cultivation, Chen Fei made a decision. Fuse, he commanded. Soon after, another message appeared: cultivation method, shocking swallowing art, master 811/1000. The system prompted him: discovered cultivation technique, shocking swallowing art. Do you want to spend 100 silver taels to simplify the shocking swallowing art? Chen Fei contemplated briefly and agreed to the simplification. Shocking swallowing art is being simplified. Simplification is successful. Shocking swallowing art - suspending force. A smile formed on Chen Fei's face as he saw the progress he had made. The next step was to diligently cultivate and increase his proficiency in the shocking swallowing art to great completion. However, before doing so, he wanted to test the efficacy of the new cultivation method in absorbing medicinal pills. He assumed a cross-legged position and began circulating the shocking swallowing art. After an hour of cultivation, Chen Fei opened his eyes, filled with joy. His meridians, which had been swollen previously, had completely returned to their normal state. The unabsorbed medicinal power had now fused entirely into Chen Fei's body. The effect is remarkable, Chen Fei exclaimed, glancing at the nearby eternal floating pill. After a moment of hesitation, he opted to take a light spirit pill instead and swallowed it. As the medicinal properties took effect, discomfort began to arise within his meridians. Chen Fei quickly activated the shocking swallowing art, causing his blood and qi to surge rapidly. Gradually, the discomfort lessened and eventually dissipated. Chen Fei's brows, once tightly furrowed, relaxed. Continuing to circulate the shocking swallowing art within his body, Chen Fei experienced the medicinal strength of the pill being swiftly absorbed and integrated into his flesh and blood. After about 2 hours, Chen Fei opened his eyes and exhaled a breath of turbid air slowly. The unmistakable joy on his face could no longer be concealed. I've reached my limit, Chen Fei exclaimed, his voice filled with excitement. Just one eternal floating pill and one light spirit pill have nearly doubled my inner strength. Previously, it took over 9 months to reach the bone tempering stage, but now, It only takes a little over 4 months. Calculating the time it took for his cultivation breakthrough, Chen Fei muttered to himself, and one haven't even reached the great completion of the shocking swallowing technique yet, so one can still consume more pills each day. Involuntarily, Chen Fei clenched his fists. Compared to others, his cultivation speed was already impressive, but given the opportunity, who wouldn't want to improve even faster? Especially in a world as perilous as this one. Could the original sect that developed this cultivation technique have been impoverished and resorted to consuming pills for sustenance? Chen Fei pondered, a curious thought crossing his mind. As night descended, Chen Fei strolled through the bustling streets of Apricot Fen City. Compared to Pingying County, the city was undoubtedly more vibrant and lively after dark. Surrounded by the illuminating fireworks, Chen Fei's heart found a moment of tranquility. If he had a choice, he would still prefer a peaceful and quiet life. Unfortunately, this world rarely offered such choices. Many things were imposed upon individuals, including the ever-present danger. Walking along the bustling street, Chen Fei eventually turned into an alley. In stark contrast to the lively atmosphere outside, the alley exuded a serene quietness. At the end of the alley stood a shop, its faint lights casting eerie shadows on the alley walls, almost as if they were grimacing. Chapter 54, Night Store. Chapter 54, Night Store. He only opens the door at night and not during the day. How peculiar, Chen Fei murmured, feeling a hint of frustration towards the shop's owner's unusual behavior. Despite his initial complaint, Chen Fei had a specific reason for seeking out this shop. Yesterday, he had inquired with Qianzhijiang about the source of the 2 candles he had seen. Qianzhijiang had directed him to this very shop. Observing his surroundings, Chen Fei failed to detect anything out of the ordinary. Thus, he decided to step inside. "Sir, what can I assist you with?" a hoarse voice called out. Chen Fei turned to face the source and saw a person of diminutive stature, barely reaching a meter in height, standing on a stool. The individual wore a smile as they greeted Chen Fei. Assessing the shop's interior, Chen Fei found nothing remarkable about it. There was no discernible dark aura or any sign of abnormalities. "I've heard that you sell something that can ward off the supernatural," Chen Fei addressed the shopkeeper. Although the shopkeeper lacked the aura of a martial artist, he exuded an inexplicable otherness, giving off an eerie sensation. "Sir, you've come to the right place," the shopkeeper replied, retrieving a red candle from under the counter and presenting it to Chen Fei. "When faced with something supernatural, light this candle to defend yourself. However, it only offers temporary resistance. If the uncanny persists and remains by your side, the candle will burn faster. Even if it burns to the end, the supernatural entity can still cause harm." "How much is it?" Chen Fei scrutinized the red candle attentively, confirming that it was the same one Qianzhijiang had used to save several lives in the mountain village. "It's 1,000 taels, the shopkeeper stated matter-of-factly. Surprised, Chen Fei raised his head and gazed at the shopkeeper. "That's quite expensive," he exclaimed. The total value of Chen Fei's current assets would likely only cover the cost of this single red candle. "Compared to life, what is money?" the shopkeeper chuckled softly. "These candles are not easy to make. I'm the sole seller of them in all of Apricot Fen City. Is there anything else?" Chen Fei inquired in a hushed tone. "Of course." The shopkeeper nodded and produced a white candle from beneath the counter, placing it in front of Chen Fei. "This candle has the ability to attract the supernatural. It's priced at 500 taels per candle." The inexplicable scent emanating from the white candle brought back memories of the incident that had occurred 2 days prior. Chen Fei realized that if it weren't for the presence of the red candle, the white candle could have been a suicidal weapon, attracting numerous monsters simultaneously. Just the thought of it sent shivers down one's spine. "Anything else?" Chen Fei understood that he couldn't afford to make any purchases today, so he decided to gather knowledge and widen his horizons. When he had accumulated more funds, he would return to replenish his supplies. The evil vanquishing sword can wound and even kill supernatural entities, even when wielded by an ordinary person, the shopkeeper explained as a dark red blade materialized on the counter. The blade appeared incredibly thin, and it seemed that even a minor clash with another weapon could split it in half. Clearly, it was designed specifically to combat the supernatural. "What's the price?" Chen Fei asked, feeling a twinge of discomfort. 10,000 taels of silver. It wasn't that he couldn't afford the price, but it would certainly take a significant amount of time to accumulate the necessary funds. While the sword blade was indeed effective against supernatural creatures, its use was limited solely to them. "Please show me the next item." Without any signs of impatience, the shopkeeper presented the next item. A small medicine bottle materialized on the counter. Illusion-breaking water. When applied to the eyes, it allows one to see through supernatural illusions. Curiously, Chen Fei examined the bottle, reminiscent of the legendary tears of a cow from his previous life, which had possessed the same effect. If he had possessed such a substance 2 days ago, he wouldn't have had to worry about wandering in the fog. Awakening incense, capable of breaking barriers when lit, priced at 300 taels, the shopkeeper presented another item, revealing an incense stick that Chen Fei had seen before. "Is there anything else?" Chen Fei inquired. "No, these are the only items I have," the shopkeeper replied, shaking their head. They then asked Chen Fei, "Which one catches your interest?" "I'll consider it," Chen Fei responded, unable to admit that he didn't have enough money. While he could afford the candles and incense, he still needed to save up to purchase a quality pill furnace for refining pills. If he were to spend all his money now, he wouldn't have enough left. "May one ask why the shop only opens at night?" Chen Fei couldn't help but inquire curiously before departing. He couldn't fathom the necessity of running a shop exclusively at night. "During the daytime, I'm asleep," the shopkeeper replied shyly, offering an explanation that left Chen Fei momentarily speechless. Chen Fei regarded the shopkeeper's peculiar expression with a sense of bewilderment. This unexpected explanation had disrupted his mental preparations prior to visiting the shop. His mind wandered, wondering where the shop's inventory truly originated from. Leaving the shop behind, Chen Fei wandered the streets for a while before eventually returning to the inn. Throughout the night, he dedicated himself to cultivation. The following morning, Chen Fei embarked on a quest to explore various shops. His intention was not only to purchase a pill furnace but also to inquire about selling his own pills. After visiting several establishments, Chen Fei's expression grew somewhat complicated. While the shops were indeed willing to purchase his pills, the offered prices were disappointingly low, approximately 40% of the market value. It resembled the arrangement the Zhang family had proposed, treating Chen Fei as their in-house alchemist. In contrast to the exorbitant prices he had encountered in the underground market of Pingying County, the disparity was vast. However, he acknowledged that the extraordinary demand for pills in Pingying County had skewed his perception, making any comparison futile. Chen Fei felt reluctant to sell his medicinal pills to the shop at such a low price. He considered an alternative option, setting up a stall to sell the pills. Apricot Fen City had a street where itinerant cultivators would gather and sell various items. Chen Fei had visited the street before and found a wide array of goods available. However, the quality of the items varied, and he would need to ensure the quality of his own pills. Setting up a stall would require time and effort, which would inevitably detract from Chen Fei's cultivation progress. He needed to focus on perfecting the shocking swallowing art to expedite his breakthrough to the bone-tempering realm. Additionally, he had to dedicate time to deducing the pill formula for the eternal floating pill, using the remnants of the recipe he had obtained from the Zhao family. Chen Fei estimated that it would take him about a month to complete the deduction. Furthermore, he also wanted to further develop his archery skills. While there were few resources on archery in Pingyang County, Apricot Fen City offered a plethora of secret manuals and techniques. Chen Fei desired to elevate his archery skills to a higher level. Considering all these factors, setting up a stall seemed less worthwhile, as it would consume significant amounts of his time. I need someone to help me set up a stall and share the profits, Chen Fei pondered for a moment, and the image of Qi Defeng came to mind. Qi Defeng had experience setting up a stall in Pingyang County, making him well versed in such matters. With his decision made, Chen Fei purchased a pill furnace for 200 taels and returned to the inn. Do you want me to help you sell pills? Qi Defeng expressed surprise as he looked at Chen Fei in the guest room. Why don't you refine the pills yourself and sell them? Why do you need my assistance? The price offered by the shop is too low. I want you to set up a stall to sell them. In return, I'll give you 5% of the profits, Chen Fei replied with a smile. 5%? That's too little, Qi Defeng instinctively began to negotiate. How about 20%? All right, 20% it is then. Chen Fei agreed immediately, reaching out to shake Qi Defeng's hand as they made a pact. Qi Defeng observed Chen Fei's actions with a puzzled expression. Why did this seem so familiar? Had he quoted a price too low just now? Chapter 55, Earning Money. Chapter 55, Earning Money. The responsibility of purchasing medicinal herbs was still entrusted to Qi Defeng. Since the benefits were already linked, Qi Defeng couldn't afford to use any counterfeit herbs to deceive Chen Fei. Once he discovered that Chen Fei was an alchemist, Qi Defeng finally grasped why Chen Fei could effortlessly discern his fraudulent medicinal ingredients. If an alchemist couldn't accurately identify the ingredients required to refine their own medicinal pills, it would imply that their skill level was likely inadequate. Chen Fei opted not to craft the Qi Rejuvenation pill but instead utilized the Light Spirit pill directly. After all, the Light Spirit pill was more expensive and had a higher demand in Apricot Fen City. In contrast to a smaller county like Pingyang County, Apricot Fen City boasted a larger population of martial artists and individuals with advanced cultivation levels. The bone tempering realm, while not widespread, was far more prevalent than in Pingyang County. During his time in Pingyang County, Chen Fei had already perfected the cultivation of the Light Spirit pill. Refining a cauldron of pills allowed him to fully harness the medicinal properties of the ingredients. Each cauldron contained 4 Light Spirit pills. The ingredients for the Light Spirit pill were not overly expensive. While it may be an exaggeration to say they were abundant everywhere, they were indeed relatively easy to find. Many individuals even grew and cultivated them themselves, and they matured quickly. The simplicity of the materials contributed to the wide availability and popularity of both the Light Spirit pill and the Eternal Floating pill. Scarcer herbs and ingredients had been phased out and eliminated throughout history. Early in the morning, Chen Fei bid farewell to Qianzhijiang, extending his hands in a cup gesture. Qi Defeng stepped forward and patted Qianzhijiang's shoulder, remaining silent. As per their original plan, Qianzhijiang was meant to accompany them to Immortal Cloud City so they could support one another. However, Qianzhijiang unexpectedly encountered someone from the bodyguard agency in Apricot Fen City. After pondering the matter throughout the night, Qianzhijiang decided to follow the group from the bodyguard agency and assist them with their tasks. There will be ample opportunities to visit Immortal Cloud City in the future, Qianzhijiang laughed heartily. He bid farewell to Chen Fei and the other man, then turned around and departed. Once they waved goodbye, Chen Fei and the other man returned to the courtyard. Since they needed to wait in Apricot Fen City for over a month for the caravan, it became inconvenient to continue staying at the inn. Consequently, Chen Fei and the other 2 individuals rented a courtyard in the city for a duration of 6 months. If they had rented it for a shorter period, it might have upset the landlord. However, Chen Fei wasn't concerned about the rent and agreed to the terms. These are the herbs for today. Please check if there are any issues. Qi Defeng handed over a package to Chen Fei. Chen Fei inspected it and found everything to be in order. He then retrieved a list and handed it to Qi Defeng, saying, "Gather these medicinal ingredients. I want to attempt refining a new pill. These ingredients are for the eternal floating pill." Qi Defeng glanced at the list, visibly surprised. "Do you know how to refine it?" Chen Fei was also taken aback. "Have you forgotten what I was doing in Pingying County? Although the recipe for the eternal floating pill was counterfeit, I still have some knowledge about it." Qi Defeng smiled, though the astonishment in his eyes lingered. Over the past few days, Chen Fei's remarkable speed in refining the light spirit pill had already greatly surprised Qi Defeng. Being a seasoned figure in the martial arts scene, Qi Defeng possessed a wealth of knowledge. Hence, he understood the level of refinement required to achieve Chen Fei's impressive pill production rate. Throughout his time in Pingying County, Qi Defeng had never encountered anyone capable of reaching such heights. And now, Chen Fei was embarking on experiments with the eternal floating pill. The pill formula for the light spirit pill was considered precious among ordinary individuals, but it could still be obtained through various means. However, the formula for the eternal floating pill was not available in Pingying County. While Apricot Fen City did possess it, no one would willingly disclose it. Moreover, considering their recent arrival in Apricot Fen City, it was highly unlikely that they had obtained the pill formula for the eternal floating pill. Therefore, there was a strong possibility that Chen Fei had deduced the formula himself. Such alchemical talent was truly astonishing and awe-inspiring. "Don't worry too much. I'm just in the experimental stage, and I'm unsure of the outcome," Chen Fei reassured with a smile, shaking his head. After spending a considerable amount of time together, Chen Fei had developed a deep understanding of Qi Defeng's character. He had no intention of hiding anything from him. Additionally, if they were to continue collaborating in the future, certain alchemical skills would inevitably need to be shared. Qi Defeng smiled in return, recognizing the trust Chen Fei had placed in him. He took the light spirit pills he intended to sell that day and departed from the courtyard. Meanwhile, Chen Fei tidied up the medicinal herbs and transferred them to the pill room, preparing to commence the refining process for the light spirit pill. Over the past few days, Chen Fei had dedicated his mornings to perfecting the refining process for the light spirit pill. With his exceptional pill production rate, he could refine 60 to 70 light spirit pills within just a few hours. As Qi Defeng set up his stall, he priced the light spirit pills at around 11 to 12 taels, depending on the quantity purchased. With the exception of the first 2 days, there were consistently a few customers who bought the pills. All the pills Chen Fei had refined in the past few days were easily sold. Since Chen Fei had not produced counterfeit light spirit pills and had refined them at the great completion level, the pills were in optimal condition. Both their appearance and medicinal effects were top-notch. Once someone tried the pill for the first time, they would recognize its effectiveness and naturally become repeat customers of Qi Defeng's stall. After deducting Qi Defeng's share, Chen Fei was left with around 600 taels. This success prompted Chen Fei to consider increasing the quantity of pills he could refine to meet the growing demand. In Apricot Fen City, acquiring the necessary medicinal ingredients for the light spirit pill was not a challenging task. Chen Fei could easily earn 1,000 taels per day. However, he eventually suppressed the thought of increasing the quantity too much. Having too many pills could potentially lead to complications. Nonetheless, Chen Fei was also unwilling to earn too little. In the end, they reached a compromise and settled on the current number. The pursuit of benefits always carried some degree of risk, and it depended on each individual's willingness to bear them. Having spent nearly 10 days in Apricot Fen City, Chen Fei focused on the sale of the light spirit pill while nearing the completion of the formula deduction for the eternal floating pill. The progress was smoother than expected, which could be attributed to Chen Fei's current level of alchemy. The remnant recipe from the Zhao family also proved to be highly beneficial. With all these factors combined, Chen Fei was now ready to attempt refining the eternal floating pill. Succeeding even once would significantly accelerate Chen Fei's wealth accumulation. Chen Fei had always desired the suppressing dragon-elephant cultivation technique, which he found on the interface. However, the price of 50,000 taels was a significant hurdle for him. As for his progress in refining pills, it remained steady. But what delighted Chen Fei the most was that his cultivation technique, the shocking swallowing art, had finally reached perfection. Reaching perfection in the technique brought several benefits. Apart from an increase in the cultivation value itself, the most significant surprise was that he could consume more medicinal pills. Previously, when the shocking swallowing art was at the master level, Chen Fei could only consume one light spirit pill and one eternal floating pill per day. But now, as the technique reached perfection, he was able to ingest 2 eternal floating pills daily. As a result, his cultivation would improve by 85 points in a single day. The time it would take for Chen Fei to break through to the bone-tempering realm was reduced by another month. The effects of the shocking swallowing art surpassed his imagination. Additionally, Chen Fei sensed that as his cultivation technique continued to accumulate experience points, the number of medicinal pills he could consume daily was gradually increasing. The original version of the cloud-devouring force shouldn't have yielded such remarkable results. Otherwise, the sect wouldn't have declined to such a state. It's possible that the combination of the cloud-devouring force and the astonishing symbol art resulted in an unexpected transformation, Chen Fei pondered aloud. This was his personal speculation. The astonishing symbol art, derived from the thunderous sword force, was a cultivation technique of the immortal cloud sword sect. The astonishing symbol art could be circulated more rapidly if one's body could withstand it. When combined with the absorption ability of the cloud-devouring force, this effect was significantly amplified. Considering the current progress, I might be able to reach the bone-tempering realm before the immortal cloud caravan arrives, Chen Fei thought with satisfaction. Chapter 56, Chapter 56, Breaking Through to the Bone-Tempering Realm. Chapter 56, Breaking Through to the Bone-Tempering Realm. After spending the entire morning refining pills, Chen Fei dedicated himself to the cultivation of inner strength. With each breath, his body rose and fell in sync, and a rising heat began to permeate from his skin into his bones and muscles. The day this heat completely engulfed his entire being would mark his breakthrough into the bone-tempering realm. Chen Fei didn't waste his time in the afternoon and evening either. He refrained from indulging in the pleasures of the brothel or other distractions. Instead, he adopted the lifestyle of an ascetic monk. Chen Fei purchased numerous cultivation technique manuals, aiming to merge and refine his skills. He attempted to combine the sword technique manuals, only to find that the fire sword had already reached the stage of great completion. It wasn't that the fire sword was inherently strong, but rather the sword technique manuals available in Apricot Fen City were of average quality. The same situation applied to movement technique manuals. Therefore, Chen Fei shifted his focus to archery, seeking to enhance his skills in that area. The 3 archery manuals Chen Fei had acquired in Pingying County were all rudimentary. However, the manuals he purchased in Apricot Fen City provided significant improvements. Chen Fei tirelessly practiced drawing the bow and shooting arrows, dedicating himself to his archery cultivation. To outsiders, Chen Fei's intense training regimen may have appeared excessive, bordering on obsession. Even Qi Defang couldn't help but advise him, concerned about his well-being. Nevertheless, Chen Fei would always smile, listen to the advice, and then continue with his training. "You are not a fish, so how can you know the joy of a fish?" Chen Fei would respond to concerns with this rhetorical question. He wasn't naturally inclined to be overly diligent, but the sense of vulnerability in this world pushed him to strive for greater strength. Moreover, he could tangibly feel his progress each day. With every diligent effort, he would reap rewards. Chen Fei had become somewhat fixated on his cultivation. He didn't view it as a burden but rather enjoyed the process. It was through this enjoyment that he found the perseverance to see things through to completion. Another 10 days flew by in the blink of an eye, bringing the total time spent in Apricot Fen City to over 20 days. Inside the pill room, Chen Fei focused his gaze on the pill furnace before him, sensing the subtle changes in the medicinal properties and adjusting them with his inner strength. As time passed, a delicate medicinal fragrance began to waft through the room, permeating even the courtyard through the gaps in the door. A quarter of an hour swiftly passed, and Chen Fei utilized his technique to gently tap the lid of the furnace. With a muffled sound, he cautiously poked his head out to assess the result. Before his eyes lay a newly formed medicinal pill. Success! A smile involuntarily spread across Chen Fei's face. Hearing Chen Fei's exclamation, Qi Defeng, who had been waiting by his side, approached to witness the moment. Chen Fei passed the medicinal pill to Qi Defeng, who handled it with care. It was evident that some remnants had not fully fused with the pill, causing its appearance to appear slightly uneven. If such a medicinal pill were to be sold, no martial artist would purchase it unless it was sold at a better price. Qi Defeng sought Chen Fei's opinion with his eyes. Seeing no objection from Chen Fei, he carefully took out a small portion of the medicinal pill and consumed it. After a moment, Qi Defeng opened his eyes and looked at Chen Fei, a hint of disbelief evident in his gaze. "How is it?" Chen Fei inquired, lifting his head. "It's the eternal floating pill," Qi Defeng affirmed with certainty. "Looks like we'll soon be able to sell the eternal floating pill." Chen Fei couldn't help but smile. "Indeed." Observing Chen Fei deducing and refining the eternal floating pill from scratch, Qi Defeng had no doubts about Chen Fei's ability to produce high-quality pills in the future. "However, we might encounter some trouble with selling medicinal pills in Apricot Fen City for the time being." Qi Defeng returned the eternal floating pill to Chen Fei and frowned. "Is there an issue?" Chen Fei wasn't surprised. Where there were profits, trouble was sure to follow. Moreover, they were dealing with the sale of medicinal pills, a highly lucrative trade. The quality of the light spirit pills Chen Fei refined was exceptional, and the potency was evident. Anyone with knowledge in the field would recognize the presence of a skilled alchemist behind them. With trouble arriving at their doorstep, it became clear that one had to be cautious in big cities. It seemed that their adversary had assessed that Qi Defeng lacked a powerful backing, which emboldened them to confront them openly. "There is a gang in Apricot Fen City called the Shallow Water Gang. They have targeted our business," Qi Defeng explained, taking a seat and looking at Chen Fei. "I've been monitoring the people they sent to follow us for a few days. They're likely running out of patience now. In that case, we won't continue selling for the time being. Let's wait for the immortal cloud caravan to arrive," Chen Fei suggested after a moment of contemplation. He had already been selling pills for over 20 days and had earned a considerable sum. Midway through, he had also visited a shop in the alley, purchasing everything he needed except for a sword. He even bought 2 red candles. Chen Fei deposited a portion of the silver into the interface, exchanged another portion for silver notes, and kept some as silver scraps for daily expenses. This money would suffice for a short period. Afterward, he could wait until he reached Immortal Cloud City, where he would join a sect and gain a backer. Then, he wouldn't be so vulnerable. "All right, I had the same thought," Qi Defeng replied, relieved that Chen Fei agreed with his suggestion. As a seasoned individual, Qi Defeng had witnessed countless conflicts of interest. Being outsiders in Apricot Fen City, it was risky for them to engage in conflicts with the local gangs. Qi Defeng was ambitious and desired wealth, but he would never jeopardize his life for money. Of course, Chen Fei could sell the pills he refined to other shops. However, since they had already attracted the attention of the Shallow Water Gang, Chen Fei couldn't be certain which shops were affiliated with them. It would be risky to sell the pills to just any shop. Thus, Chen Fei decided against it, as less money was preferable to increased danger. Another month went by, bringing the total time spent in Apricot Fen City to almost 2 months. Although the immortal cloud caravan had yet to arrive, Chen Fei's space grid was already brimming with hundreds of light spirit pills. By refining the light spirit pills, he could improve and simplify the recipe for the eternal floating pill. With his proficiency in the shocking swallowing art reaching the master level and progressing towards perfection, Chen Fei had achieved self-sufficiency in consuming the eternal floating pills. The increased proficiency also allowed him to now swallow 4 eternal floating pills per day. As a result, the bone-tempering realm, which would typically take nearly 3 months to break through, had already reached a critical point. Observing his progress on the interface, Chen Fei took out an eternal floating pill and swallowed it. As soon as the eternal floating pill entered his mouth, it dissolved instantly, unleashing a surge of heat that expanded within his body. As the shocking swallowing art circulated rapidly, the energy from the pill surged throughout Chen Fei's body, particularly his skin and flesh, emanating an extraordinary high temperature. Through his inner vision, he could perceive the energy within his muscles relentlessly attacking and compressing his bones. Over time, this compression intensified. A buzzing sensation reverberated within his soul, and Chen Fei's eyes suddenly snapped open. Rising from the ground, the sound of bones and tendons resonated throughout the pill room. Unbeknownst to him, his figure grew slightly taller, exuding an aura as deep as the abyss. Chen Fei's appearance was completely transformed from his previous skinny and tanned self. Realm, Bone Tempering Realm, 3/100000. At that moment, a knock echoed from outside the courtyard. Chen Fei walked out of the pill room and opened the door. "Are you Chen Fei?" A young boy stood before him, his tongue still licking a candied fruit. He looked up at Chen Fei and asked. "Yes, what is it?" Chen Fei inquired. "Uncle Qi told me to tell you to run," the boy exclaimed urgently. Chapter 57, Closing the Door. Chapter 57, Closing the Door. Chen Fei's expression changed, but he didn't panic. Instead, he allowed the boy to enter the courtyard and shut the door. "Do you know where Uncle Qi is now?" Chen Fei sat opposite the little boy and asked. "I don't know either. Uncle Qi didn't come to look for me today," the little boy replied, licking the remaining candied fruit off his finger. "Uncle Qi said that if he didn't come to find me one day, I should come to you and tell you to run. Good boy, this is for you." Chen Fei took out a tael of silver. The little boy's eyes widened, and he quickly hid the silver in his pocket. After bowing and thanking Chen Fei, he skipped away. In the courtyard, Chen Fei frowned. This child was supposed to be Qi Defen's backup plan to warn him. He hadn't expected it to be put into action. The key now was to find out who had captured Qi Defeng. In the past month, Chen Fei had been quietly cultivating in his room. He rarely encountered any conflicts with others, only venturing or occasionally. Qi Defeng, too, lived a reclusive life, seldom leaving his residence except to assist Chen Fei in purchasing herbs. Could it be the shallow water gang again? Chen Fei pondered, reflecting on an incident that occurred a month ago when he had become the target of the gang due to his pill-selling activities. If suspicions were to be raised, it was likely directed at the shallow water gang. However, considering that they had already taken the initiative to conceal themselves, why would they continue to pursue Chen Fei? Returning to the pill room, Chen Fei proceeded to tidy up all his belongings before storing them in the spatial grid for safekeeping. Due to safety concerns, this courtyard could no longer be occupied. After 15 minutes, Chen Fei eliminated any traces within the courtyard and departed. "What kind of information are you seeking?" "I'm looking for someone." Chen Fei replied from beneath the cover of a bamboo hat, inside a house tucked away in an alley. This was one of the locations in Apricot Fen City renowned for its expertise in gathering information. As long as the price was right, they could uncover most non-secretive information. Apricot Fen City had a few similar establishments, and Chen Fei wasn't certain if this particular place could assist him, but he had no choice but to give it a try. Could you provide a description of the person you're looking for? The shopkeeper asked. Chen Fei briefly explained the altered appearance of Qi Defeng, nor having any portrait or tangible reference to offer. His lack of trust in such establishments prevented him from providing too much information, as he was aware that if they were willing to sell information to you, they could just as easily sell your own information to others. Please wait a moment. 111 Have someone check, the shopkeeper responded, passing the note in his possession to someone in the back. After 15 minutes had passed, another note arrived from behind. How did it go? Chen Fei leaned forward, his anticipation evident. We found him, the shopkeeper replied, glancing at the note and then meeting Chen Fei's gaze. It'll cost you 50 taels, and you'll learn RHE whereabouts of this person. Absolutely, Chen Fei agreed, nodding as he retrieved 50 taels of silver from his pocket and placed them on the counter. The shopkeeper accepted the money with a smile and handed the note to Chen Fei. Eagerly, Chen Fei unfolded the note to read its contents. To his surprise, there were only 3 words written: Shallow Water Gang. Chen Fei's eyes narrowed, his mind racing with questions. He hadn't expected the Shallow Water Gang to be involved. Was it connected to the incident with the medicinal pills, or were there other reasons behind their actions? Someone witnessed your friend being taken away by the Shallow Water Gang, the shopkeeper disclosed calmly, taking a sip from his teacup. If you wish to rescue your friend, we can establish a connection between us. However, one must emphasize that success is not guaranteed. Do you have information about the Shallow Water Gang for sale? Chen Fei responded without directly acknowledging the shopkeeper's proposal. Indeed, any information can be bought and sold for the right price, the shopkeeper confirmed. For the specific information about the Shallow Water Gang, including the location where your friend is currently held captive, the price is 300 taels. Very well, Chen Fei agreed, taking out a banknote and placing it on the counter. The shopkeeper carefully examined the banknote and, finding no issues, knocked on the table. A piece of paper was handed over to Chen Fei from behind the counter. As he read through it, a slight frown appeared on his face. Is there anything else you require? The shopkeeper inquired. No, that will be all, Chen Fei shook his head, rising from his seat. Just as he was about to leave, he turned back to the shopkeeper and asked, I came here seeking information. I trust that the shopkeeper won't sell it to others. Ha ha ha, you jest, my friend. This establishment does not engage in such practices, the shopkeeper chuckled heartily, assuring Chen Fei. Rest assured. I'm glad to hear that, Chen Fei smiled, nodding slightly before exiting the shop, his mind focused on the newfound information. As Chen Fei walked away, the shopkeeper tapped the counter 3 times. Immediately, someone emerged from behind him. The pill refiner that the Shallow Water Gang is searching for is here. Sell this information to them, but make sure to demand a higher price. The shopkeeper instructed, recalling Chen Fei's earlier conversation and a smirk creeping across his face. That person we just dealt with is likely a naive target. Send someone more vigilant to tail him. We can sell his location for an even higher price. I will do it immediately, the individual nodded and issued instructions to the people in the back hall. Soon, a person emerged, a nondescript figure capable of blending into a crowd, perfect for surveillance. Go, the shopkeeper ordered, observing the person with satisfaction. The man responded with a flattering smile, bowed to the shopkeeper, and left the shop. Another sum of money deposited into my account, the shopkeeper chuckled, a satisfied grin on his face. He reclined comfortably in his chair, picked up his teacup, and downed the remaining tea in a single gulp. Honesty. What was that? Money had its own enticing fragrance. The shopkeeper felt exhilarated, humming a few tunes as he stood up and prepared to relieve himself. Suddenly, a loud shout erupted from the back hall, only to abruptly cease after a brief moment. The shopkeeper's expression shifted as his nostrils detected a faint scent of blood. His face contorted in shock. In the back hall, where several experts in the bone-tempering realm resided, there was now absolute silence. The shopkeeper, being only in the body-tempering realm, didn't dare to linger any longer. Just as he prepared to flee, he witnessed a figure emerge from the back hall. "It's you," the shopkeeper uttered, his gaze fixated on Chen Fei with a mix of astonishment and fear. Chen Fei glanced back at the sly shopkeeper and, with a cold expression, shut the door of the shop. The entire establishment plunged into darkness, with only a sliver of light seeping through the door's crack, casting an eerie glow on the shopkeeper's face, revealing its uneven and disfigured appearance. "What are you doing?" The shopkeeper's voice trembled as he swallowed nervously, pointing a shaky finger at Chen Fei. "You said you wouldn't sell my information." Chen Fei glanced at the frightened shopkeeper and shook his head. "Do you know who is behind this establishment? If there are any issues, we can discuss them properly." The shopkeeper's eyes widened in fear, realizing that his attempt to use his backing to intimidate Chen Fei had failed. The shopkeeper had not been lying about the influential forces supporting the shop's operations in Apricot Fen City. However, in the face of Chen Fei's actions, even the shopkeeper's confidence wavered. Chen Fei nodded, seemingly considering the shopkeeper's words. The shopkeeper's face brightened, thinking he might have found a way to escape this situation. But his relief was short-lived, as a sudden glint of cold light illuminated the room. The shopkeeper's body froze, his heart pierced through. His eyes remained fixed on Chen Fei, who stood expressionless before him. With his body weakened, the shopkeeper's hand hung limply at his side. He realized that if Chen Fei took another step forward, he could activate a mechanism hidden under the counter. However, Chen Fei remained at a distance, unmoving. Chapter 58, Chapter 58, Torment. Chapter 58, Torment. Translator, Dragon Boat Translation. Chen Fei wiped the blood off his sword and proceeded into the back hall. Several individuals lay lifeless on the ground, including the two who had been tailing him and providing information to the shallow water gang. Surprisingly, there were quite a few experts present, with 4 individuals in the bone-tempering realm. It was considered generous for a shop like this to have even a few bone-tempering realm cultivators in its ranks. However, their battle prowess proved lackluster against Chen Fei's assault. Having fused multiple cultivation techniques, Chen Fei now possessed far greater power than rogue cultivators of the same level. After a brief search for any hidden silver, Chen Fei turned his attention to gathering information about the shallow water gang. He meticulously searched through the possessions and documents in the back hall, determined to uncover crucial details. Chen Fei wasn't entirely confident in the information he had obtained from the untrustworthy shopkeeper. As he searched through the back hall, he discovered a room with several shelves filled with information. Sorting through the materials, Chen Fei quickly located the relevant details concerning the shallow water gang. Feeling pressed for time, he hesitated for a moment before deciding to take everything he deemed necessary. Summoning the storage cabinet from his space grid, Chen Fei stuffed a thick stack of papers into it. Once he had collected what he needed, he departed from the premises. As he delved into the information, Chen Fei's frown deepened. He came across details about a martial artist in the marrow-tempering realm, a piece of information missing from the initial edition he had obtained. Although this marrow-tempering realm martial artist was older and had suffered severe injuries in the past, leading to a decline in his current combat strength, he was still a formidable opponent. However, there remained a significant disparity between the marrow-tempering realm and the bone-tempering realm in terms of fundamental power. Chen Fei strode out of a bustling market and raised his gaze toward the direction of Su Zhexuan's residence, the sect master of the shallow water sect. After a moment of contemplation, he made his way towards the grand estate. Inside Su Zhexuan's residence, Qi Defen knelt on the ground, his hands bound tightly behind his back. Trembling with fear, he pleaded to the figures in the hall, Please, 111 tell you everything I know as long as you spare me. Please, don't hurt me. Su Zhechuan, seated proudly on his throne, looked down upon Qi Defeng. Where is that alchemist? He demanded. Confusion clouded Qi Defeng's face as he responded, what alchemist? Without warning, Su Zhechuan delivered a powerful kick to Qi Defeng's chest. The impact sent Qi Defeng hurtling into a stone pillar within the hall, blood spraying from his mouth. Gasping for breath, he struggled to speak. I'm not pretending. I don't know. Mockery danced in Su Zhechuan's eyes as he waved his hand, ordering his subordinates, beat him until he reveals the truth. Yes, sir. 2 members of the shallow water sect, carrying out their leader's command, launched themselves at Qi Defeng, raining down punches and kicks upon him mercilessly. Qi Defeng's agonized screams filled the air as his body quickly became drenched in his own blood. Tell me, Su Zhechuan's smile vanished from his face. I don't know that pill master. Every time he comes to me, he asks me to sell his pills. If I sell them, he pays me for my efforts, Qi Defeng replied, fear evident in his voice as he whispered to Su Zhechuan. Su Zhechuan's expression darkened as he slowly approached Qi Defeng, each step purposeful. Without warning, he drew a long sword and plunged it into Qi Defeng's thigh. Qi Defeng let out a piercing scream, unable to evade the attack. Do you think I'm easily deceived? Continue with your fabrications, and I will see how far you can go. Su Zhechuan forcefully twisted the sword lodged in Qi Defeng's thigh. Within moments, Qi Defeng's leg was a gory mess, causing him unimaginable agony. Qi Defeng could only gasp for breath, unable to produce coherent words. I'm telling the truth. You can verify it if you want, Qi Defeng weakly pleaded, his face drained of color. Su Zhechuan turned to his subordinates and asked, have you discovered who he had close contact with in the past? This old man is extremely cautious. Every time we tail him, he manages to shake us off. We don't know where he resides or who he associates with, one of the subordinates responded. How cautious indeed. Su Zhechuan leaned forward, fixing a piercing gaze upon Qi Defeng. He then withdrew the long sword from Qi Defeng's thigh, only to press his foot onto the wound and grind it mercilessly. The already festering wound worsened, turning into a bloody pulp of flesh, causing Qi Defeng unbearable torment. It's true. Everything I've said is true. Qi Defeng shouted in a hoarse voice, his consciousness nearly slipping away. Inject him with the medicine and break his fingers, one by one. Su Zhechuan's eyes narrowed as he reclined back into his high chair. Shallow water sect members lifted Qi Defeng, forcing him to drink a bowl of medicine. Qi Defeng, already in a dazed state, briefly regained consciousness, only to be consumed by the intensifying pain coursing through his body. I want to see just how tough your resolve is. Su Zhechuan pointed his finger, signaling someone to produce a massive pair of pliers. The pincers bore a dark brown crust, remnants of dried blood. A putrid odor wafted from them, indicating that they had already clamped onto flesh countless times before. After breaking all 10 fingers, we still have 10 toes to go. There's plenty of time, and I'll savor torturing you slowly, Su Zhechuan coldly remarked, his gaze fixed on Qi Defeng. The fear in Qi Defeng's eyes slowly faded, replaced by a defiant expression. Without warning, he spat a mouthful of blood directly at Su Zhechuan. Come, let's attack together. Let's see if you can make this old man feel a bit more satisfied. Knowing his disguise was futile, he burst into laughter. Enraged, Su Zhechuan's eyes narrowed, and he bellowed, punish him. I want to see him begging for death on his knees. Yes, sir, the shallow water sect members responded, seizing Qi Defeng's fingers and clamping them with the pliers. However, in that moment, an arrow shot through the air, piercing the body of one of the shallow water gang members. The force of the arrow sent him crashing to the ground, and the pincers slipped from his grip with a crisp sound. Everyone stood in stunned silence. Suddenly, two more arrows flew forth, finding their mark in the hearts of two individuals, killing them instantly. Enemy attack. The realization dawned on everyone, and they sought cover to evade the onslaught of arrows. Some attempted to launch a counter-attack by moving towards the corner of the hall, preparing to strike back. Whoosh! 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 The sound of arrows resounded incessantly. Those who attempted to expose themselves were swiftly impaled by arrows through their heads, while those still seeking shelter found themselves pierced by additional arrows. The remaining members of the shallow water gang retaliated, unleashing their hidden weapons and shooting arrows. However, each person who struck back found themselves with a fatal hole appearing in their body moments later. The arrows proved to be immensely powerful, easily penetrating the bodies of their targets. Within a short span of time, over a dozen people within the mansion's hall had fallen to their demise. The remaining individuals no longer dared to expose themselves, seeking shelter from the deadly rain of arrows. However, some of the arrows, propelled by an incredible force, arched their trajectory, bypassing cover and impaling those who thought themselves protected. This level of archery surpassed the capabilities of ordinary martial artists. A lone figure, wielding a bow, single-handedly suppressed dozens of people with astonishing precision and deadly accuracy. Who dares to come here and act so outrageously? With a resounding shout, a figure swiftly approached from a distance, arriving in the sky above the mansion's hall in the blink of an eye. It's Old He. Old He is here. The shallow water gang members, who had been slain by the arrows, couldn't help but exclaim with a mix of joy and relief upon recognizing the newcomer's identity. Chen Fei stood poised on the rooftop, his eyes fixed on He Yuan Kaiu as he soared overhead. Swiftly, Chen Fei repositioned his bow and released an arrow that struck a shallow water gang member who had dared to expose himself. You dare! He Yuan Kaiu seethed with anger as he witnessed Chen Fei claim yet another life before his eyes. He extended his right hand, resembling the talons of an eagle, and aimed to seize Chen Fei's head. Tusk! The sound of slicing air reverberated as He Yuan Kaiu's claw-like hand swiped through, but it failed to connect with its intended target. Chen Fei gracefully retreated, his figure gliding backward, and he promptly released 3 more arrows. The arrows found their marks, ending the lives of the shallow water gang members who had been hiding. The shallow water gang members, previously bolstered by He Yuan Kaiu's arrival, fell into an eerie silence, their morale diminished by the swift and accurate strikes. Chapter 59, Chapter 59, Crack. Chapter 59, Crack. The archery secret manual Chen Fei had obtained in Apricot Fen City not only provided him with additional skills but also brought about a notable change. Chen Fei could now freely shoot arrows while seamlessly integrating his movement technique. The two skills complemented each other without hindrance, ensuring that the accuracy of his shots remained unaffected. Therefore, despite He Yuan Kaiu's pursuit, it did not impede Chen Fei from relentlessly eliminating the shallow water gang members below. Gradually, some of the members began to collapse under the torment of awaiting their inevitable demise. A few dared to leap out, attempting to rush toward Chen Fei, but all they received in return were swift arrows. Chen Fei's arrows proved to be lethal, especially to the majority of the shallow water gang members who were merely in the body tempering stage. Even those in the bone tempering realm could not escape Chen Fei's arrows, succumbing to them and falling lifeless to the ground. Help! Gang leader, could this person be here to save that old guy? A whispered voice beside Su Zhechuan caught his attention. In that case, go and hold that old man hostage, using him as leverage to threaten the intruder, Su Zhechuan said, casting a glance at his subordinate. However, the subordinate shrank back, afraid to speak further. Whether Chen Fei was there to rescue someone or not was inconsequential. The shallow water gang members knew they could not expose themselves, for doing so would invite a shower of arrows. Even if they remained hidden, the limited cover they had was insufficient protection, as arrows still managed to find their targets. It had been years since Su Zhechuan had witnessed such exceptional archery skills. In the past, there was a renowned archer named Shi Bangheng in Apricot Fen City, and it appeared that Chen Fei was on par with him. However, Shi Bangheng had eventually departed from Apricot Fen City to seek further advancements in archery. Su Zhechuan did not order his men to charge out and capture Qi Defeng. It would be a futile endeavor, courting certain death. Su Zhechuan surveyed his surroundings and noticed an iron hook with an iron chain nearby. It was a lute hook, typically employed for cruel purposes. Su Zhechuan's expression shifted slightly as he seized the pipa hook and hurled it toward Qi Defeng. Regardless of whether Chen Fei was present to rescue someone, Su Zhechuan saw an opportunity and was willing to take a chance. Observing his surroundings keenly, Chen Fei spotted the lute hook. In an instant, he adjusted his bow and swiftly shot an arrow that knocked the hook to the ground. Simultaneously, he unleashed another arrow in Su Zhechuan's direction, causing earth and debris to scatter. Su Zhechuan gazed down at the quivering arrows at his feet, his face paling. Thankfully, the cover had been sufficient, and Chen Fei's blind shot had misjudged their position. Otherwise, the arrow would have already pierced through Su Zhechuan's head. Chen Fei's figure blurred, and in a flash, he appeared before Qi Defeng. His gaze darkened as he surveyed the injuries covering Qi Defeng's body. If he had arrived any later, Qi Defeng would have been saved but left permanently crippled. Quick, leave. Chen Fei urged Qi Defeng, his expression resolute. Although touched by Qi Defeng's gratitude, he recognized that venturing here alone was both dangerous and reckless. At the sight of Chen Fei suddenly appearing before him, Su Zhechuan experienced a momentary daze, which quickly transformed into jubilation. From a distance, Su Zhechuan had been powerless against Chen Fei. Charging forward blindly would lead to his demise. But now, the distance between them was a mere few meters. All Su Zhechuan needed to do was intercept Chen Fei's arrow to close the gap. He intended to stall momentarily until He Yuan Kaiu arrived. If Chen Fei dared to flee, Su Zhechuan would act as if he was about to execute Qi Defeng on the ground, disrupting Chen Fei's judgment. Simply foolish. Su Zhechuan laughed maniacally inwardly, believing that he had effortlessly coerced Chen Fei into revealing his true motive. He perceived Chen Fei as an imbecile. As these thoughts raced through his mind, Su Zhechuan observed Chen Fei drawing his bow and swiftly grew alert. However, he realized that Chen Fei's first arrow was aimed at He Yuan Kaiu, completely disregarding Su Zhechuan. You are courting death. Incensed by being ignored, Su Zhechuan's eyes gleamed with a cold light. He swiftly advanced, arriving before Chen Fei as he swung a large knife toward Chen Fei's neck. Chen Fei's expression remained unchanged as he promptly activated the clear heart formula. Suddenly, everything around him seemed to freeze. Chen Fei's eyes darted rapidly, assimilating all the information flooding his mind. He Yuan Kaiu used his hands to block the arrow, but the force caused his body to halt momentarily, disrupting his charging momentum. In various corners of the hall, 5 or 6 individuals lay hidden, their rapid breaths betraying their fear. Despite their best efforts to suppress their breathing, Chen Fei still managed to discern their precise locations. Su Zhechuan's countenance twisted with ferocity, his bloodshot eyes filled with excitement. The veins in his right hand, clutching the knife, twitched due to the intensity of his grip. The shallow water gang members behind Su Zhechuan wavered, torn between advancing to capture Chen Fei or their own trepidation. In the next moment, the world resumed its course, and Chen Fei's expression returned to its calm state. He released the bow and arrow with his left hand while his right hand brandished a long sword. The fire-veined sword erupted as it met Su Zhechuan's blade. Ding! The clash produced a sharp resonance. Chen Fei had merely used the tip of his sword, yet Su Zhechuan found himself unable to maintain his grip. It seemed as though he had lost control of his strength. Continuing the attack would undoubtedly result in a broken wrist. However, Su Zhechuan had cultivated the saber for over a decade. While he may not have been an expert, misusing his strength in such a manner was impossible. Yet, it occurred at this very moment. Ha! Su Zhechuan was ruthless and knew the situation was dire. He risked the possibility of crippling his wrist and exerted all his might to hold onto the knife, continuing his slash toward Chen Fei. Nonetheless, it was only accomplished with great effort. The previously smooth saber technique momentarily faltered due to the strain. Before the blade could touch Chen Fei's body, Su Zhechuan witnessed a flash of white light before him, a long sword thrusting toward his throat from an unimaginable angle. Su Zhechuan's widened eyes betrayed his shock as he instinctively attempted to retreat. Yet, his body had already expended all its strength in swinging the knife forward. In this moment, the clash of the opposing forces left his entire body immobilized. Powerless, he could only watch as the blade pierced through his neck. Chen Fei retracted his sword, leaving a small fissure in Su Zhechuan's throat. Instinctively, Su Zhechuan used his muscles to staunch the wound from which blood trickling out. Su Zhechuan gazed at Chen Fei, his expression one of disbelief and fear. Zhechuan. He Yuan Kai's gaze was fixed on Su Zhechuan's wounded throat, shocked at the sight before him. If something were to happen to Su Zhechuan, his own fate would likely be equally grim. However, He Yuan Kai's worry dissipated in the next moment. Chapter 60, Chapter 60, Sword 5. Chapter 60, Sword 5. Chen Fei unleashed the Fire Vein Sword, a powerful sword technique that he had perfected through relentless training. However, the disparity in realms between Chen Fei and He Yuan Kai was still evident. A single Fire Vein Sword couldn't bridge that gap unless it was the complete Immortal Cloud Sword technique and not just a fragmentary Immortal Way. Despite their equal mastery over their bodies, thanks to the Clear Heart formula, Chen Fei and He Yuan Kai were evenly matched for now. However, in terms of strength and endurance, Chen Fei was at a disadvantage and would eventually falter. With another clash of swords, Chen Fei skillfully utilized the force to drift backward, bringing him closer to Su Zhechuan. Su Zhechuan's eyes widened, not due to any movement he made but because he was completely paralyzed. Any attempt to move would rupture the wound on his neck, leading to instant death. No alternative outcome existed. "How dare you!" He Yuan Kai exclaimed, astonished by Chen Fei's audacity. He charged toward Chen Fei, but his movements were visible to Chen Fei. Nervousness about Su Zhechuan had caused He Yuan Kai to exert excessive strength, distorting his otherwise precise technique. While the eagle snatch technique had been well controlled in the past, in Chen Fei's eyes, it appeared less formidable. Sometimes, applying excessive force didn't guarantee superiority, proper control was paramount. Stepping back with his right foot, Chen Fei summoned a flash of sword aura before He Yuan Kai's eyes. Recognizing the familiar move, He Yuan Kai breathed a sigh of relief, assuming it was Chen Fei's three immortal swords once again. Though this technique was extraordinary, he was prepared to defend against it. However, he underestimated the situation. This single sword strike was far from enough to conquer the world in a single move. The sound of a sword slicing through flesh and bone reverberated. Chen Fei's long sword effortlessly pierced through He Yuan Kai's eagle snatch technique, penetrating all the way to his armpit. It was Sword 5, a technique that harnessed pure strength and speed through the combination of the Clear Heart formula and Immortal Way. The immense impact shattered He Yuan Kai's seemingly invincible metal-like palms. He Yuan Kai stared at his arm in disbelief. Although the technique seemed similar, the difference in power between the two was staggering. Before he could utter a word, Chen Fei swiftly swung his sword across He Yuan Kai's neck, severing his head. He Yuan Kai's eyes conveyed bewilderment and regret. Chen Fei took a deep breath, then went to assist Qi Defeng, helping him to his feet. He cast a glance at Su Zhechuan, who still stood nearby, then turned his attention back to Qi Defeng. No need, Qi Defeng understood Chen Fei's intention. Chen Fei was asking if he wanted to exact revenge with his own hands. However, Qi Dafeng realized that Su Zhexuan's existence was now worse than death itself. Though it seemed as if Su Zhexuan had a chance to live, his precarious situation left his neck in a delicate balance with no possibility of a cure. Moreover, this state of suffering mirrored the torment Su Zhexuan had inflicted on others in the past. It was as if retribution had finally caught up with him. Chen Fei nodded, respecting Qi Dafeng's decision. However, he didn't leave immediately. Instead, he picked up the longbow from the ground and swiftly fired 6 arrows in succession, each finding its mark within the hall. Screams filled the air as no one escaped the relentless onslaught. With the exception of Su Zhexuan, who remained standing, everyone else had been struck down. Before his departure, Chen Fei searched He Yuan Kai's garments but found no secret manuals. However, he did discover some banknotes and silver pieces, which left him somewhat disappointed. As for Su Zhexuan, he wore only a single layer of clothing and had nothing of value on him. Although Chen Fei entertained the idea of looting the mansion, the risks outweighed the benefits. The commotion caused by their presence had already attracted attention. It was only a matter of time before someone arrived. Chen Fei wasn't willing to take such a gamble. Taking Qi Dafeng back to the rented courtyard, Chen Fei attended to his injuries. Fortunately, apart from the serious thigh wound, most of Qi Dafeng's injuries were superficial. With some rest and recuperation, he should be able to make a full recovery. We need to leave Apricot Fen City immediately. It's no longer safe here, Qi Dafeng said in a deep voice, taking a deep breath. I've learned from the market that a merchant group will depart from Apricot Fen City in 2 days. We'll leave the city a couple of days beforehand and try to join the group midway to Immortal Cloud City, Chen Fei proposed. With the leader of the Shallow Water Gang dead, it shouldn't pose a significant problem. However, Chen Fei had received information about Su Zhexuan's father, Su Wangliang, an expert in the visceral tempering realm. Su Wangliang wielded tremendous influence in Apricot Fen City and had played a crucial role in Su Zhexuan establishing the Shallow Water Gang. It would have been impossible for Su Zhexuan to form a decent gang in Apricot Fen City with just his cultivation base in the bone tempering realm. Furthermore, there was marrow tempering realm expert He Yuan Kai working under the gang. Su Wangliang wasn't the only powerful figure. By destroying the information selling network, Chen Fei had also drawn the attention of another influential backer. Considering these circumstances, it was imperative for Chen Fei and Qi Dafeng to flee Apricot Fen City. Upon hearing Chen Fei's plan, Qi Dafeng furrowed his brow. Leaving the city may not be an issue, but joining the merchant group will be difficult. They might secretly inform Apricot Fen City, resulting in pursuit or detention by the group. Chen Fei's expression changed slightly, realizing the gravity of the situation. Su Wangliang possessed significant power in Apricot Fen City and would undoubtedly launch a manhunt for Chen Fei and his brother. Attempting to join a caravan for safety carried great risks. Pondering the situation, the two fell into silence, contemplating various potential solutions. Wait, it seems we don't have to leave Apricot Fen City. Chen Fei raised his head and looked at Qi Dafeng. Both of us are in disguise, which is quite conspicuous. However, if we reveal our true appearances in here, what could possibly happen? Qi Dafeng was taken aback, but he quickly grasped the meaning. While disguises were convenient, they often drew unwanted attention, particularly in a city where indiscriminate searches were being conducted. It felt as though there was no place for silver in Apricot Fen City. On the other hand, with their original appearances, they would blend into the crowd more effectively. Numerous foreigners were already present in Xing Fen City, awaiting the Xianyun merchant band. The number of outsiders residing there was considerable, making it difficult for Su Wangliang and his cohorts to conduct a thorough search. This was the advantage of operating under the veil of light. At Su Zhexuan's mansion, a figure leaped over the outer wall. Upon witnessing the scene in the courtyard, Their expression changed. Relief washed over them when they saw Su Zhechuan still standing. Young master is unharmed. Hurry, inform the elder. One of them rushed off while the rest anxiously surrounded Su Zhechuan, keeping a vigilant eye on their surroundings. Satisfied that there were no immediate threats, their attention returned to Su Zhechuan. However, Su Zhechuan's eyes were vacant and bloodshot, his feeble breath almost inaudible. A gentle breeze brushed past, causing blood to spurt from Su Zhechuan's neck, splattering those in proximity, drenching them completely in warm, red blood. Chapter 61, Killing Sword. Chapter 61, Killing Sword. In the Gao family's courtyard, within the Su family's residence, an air of vigilance permeated the atmosphere, casting a somber tone over everyone present. Inside the hall, Su Zhechuan's lifeless body lay in a coffin. Su Wangliang stood beside it, his expression dark as he examined the wound on his son's neck. "What a swift and merciless strike," Su Wangliang muttered through clenched teeth, causing the temperature in the room to seemingly drop. The servants in the hall held their breath, afraid to provoke any further anger from Su Wangliang. "Master, you must avenge Chuan'er." Su Zhechuan's mother wailed, her voice hoarse and piercing. "He took the life of my son. No matter who he is, he will not escape justice." Su Wangliang turned to his butler. The butler swiftly stepped forward and whispered, "Old master, I have just ordered an investigation into the whereabouts of all those who held grievances against young master today. If there is any suspicious activity, they will be immediately apprehended." "Pa!" Su Wangliang's slap landed on the butler's cheek, sending him crashing into a pillar and spewing a mouthful of blood. The bewildered butler looked at Su Wangliang, unsure of his transgression. The surrounding servants trembled, bowing their heads even lower. "Capture and interrogate any enemies first, regardless of any unusual movements today," Su Wangliang said grimly, gazing down at the butler. "Furthermore, detain anyone who has been seen wandering around the estate today. I would rather wrongly punish someone than let a suspicious individual slip away. Do you understand?" "Yes, yes, yes. I will attend to it immediately." The butler scrambled to his feet, his cheek swollen. "Young master has perished, yet you seem devoid of grief." Su Wangliang suddenly turned his attention to the servants around him. All the servants quivered, filling the hall with their mournful wails that spilled beyond the confines of the mansion. On the bustling streets of Apricot Fen City. "How dare they destroy my shop? Master, everyone inside was slain. Killed by a single sword strike. Have you discovered anything? The traces have been completely eradicated. We currently have no leads. Master, I heard that Su Zhechuan met the same fate today. He died from a sword wound, just like He Yuan Kaiu. Interesting. Master, what shall we do now? We investigate. If we let this attack on our shop go unanswered, others will see us as easy targets. Very well, I shall commence immediately." A tense atmosphere settled over Apricot Fen City. People scurried home, refraining from venturing outside to avoid getting embroiled in the unfolding events. Intermittent cries and sounds of scuffles echoed through certain corners of the city, only to fade away soon after. The other noble families of Apricot Fen City silently acquiesced to Su Wangliang's actions. After all, his beloved son had been slain. If anyone were to oppose him at this time, they would undoubtedly become his enemies. Furthermore, Su Wangliang had garnered a reputation for avenging even the slightest grievances within Apricot Fen City. If misunderstandings arose, one might escape unscathed for now, but one never knew when Su Wangliang's blade might strike. Some noble families weren't fearful, but they also had no desire to stir up unnecessary trouble. The Su clan estate. Is he among these people? Su Wangliang turned to Wu Changli, a consecrator from the Qian clan who had been specially dispatched to assist him. Wu Changli's cultivation was average. Despite being over 50 years old, he had only recently reached the bone-tempering realm. However, within the Qian clan, Sergeant Wu held a status equivalent to ordinary marrow refinement realm martial artists. This was due to Wu Changli's unique ability to control goo worms. One of the species of goo worms possessed an extraordinary talent for tracking individuals based on the scent of blood. Though the Qian family and the Su family were not particularly close, the uproar caused by Su Wangliang in Apricot Fen City had prompted the Qian family to send Wu Changli to assist. Upon hearing Su Wangliang's inquiry, Wu Changli did not immediately respond. Instead, he observed the winged goo worm resting in his palm. The creature hovered there, showing no signs of taking flight. Not among these individuals, Wu Changli shook his head. The prisoners had endured severe torture, leaving some unrecognizable or on the brink of death. Having overheard Su Wangliang's conversation earlier, they had gained a general understanding of the situation. Upon hearing Wu Changli's words, a glimmer of hope sparked in some prisoners' eyes, and tears of joy began to trickle down their faces. They might finally escape this place. Why are you all so elated? Su Wangliang's disappointment transformed into fury. His son had died, yet these prisoners dared to display such happiness. The prisoners felt as if their throats were being constricted, rendering them silent. There may still be accomplices among them. We must conduct thorough interrogations, Su Wangliang declared before exiting the prison. The sergeant involuntarily shrank back and quickly followed suit. Wu Changli had heard of Su Wangliang's temper before, and now he witnessed it firsthand. The prisoners were unfortunate to have crossed paths with Su Wangliang. It could only be said that in this world, sometimes simply avoiding trouble was insufficient for a peaceful existence. Can you track down my son's killer? Su Wangliang inquired upon returning to the main hall. Seated atop a high chair, he peered down at Wu Changli. Though he did not exert any overt pressure, Sergeant Wu involuntarily tensed up. If the culprit has not yet left Apricot Fen City, I can attempt to do so, Wu Changli replied in a low voice. In that case, I entrust you with this task, revered Elder Wu. Su Wangliang's lips twitched. I dare not refuse, I dare not refuse. Wu Changli hastily waved his hand, eyeing the goo worm hidden within his sleeve. He extracted a small piece of black soil, no larger than a fingernail, from his pocket and placed it before the goo worm with a pained expression. The goo worm leaped onto the black soil, devouring it within moments. Its wings quivered, and it took flight. An hour ago, the goo worm had tasted Su Zhechuan's blood. It was now seeking the same aura. The very same aura that was now lingering upon the sword that had claimed Su Zhechuan's life. Chapter 62, Chapter 62, The World of Youth. Chapter 62, The World of Youth. Days had passed, but in the world of the goo worm, the scent remained fresh. Interestingly, when blood was spilled on a person's body, the living aura clashed with it, causing the residual aura to dissipate quickly. Su Wangliang's expression shifted as he trailed behind Wu Zhangli. Two marrow-tempering realm consecrators from the Su family followed closely. If they encountered the murderer, they would swiftly subdue him. Goo worms possessed impressive speed, comparable to that of a person running. After 15 minutes, the goo worm came to a halt in front of a courtyard, poised to enter. Wu Zhangli swiftly shielded the goo worm and glanced back at Su Wangliang. Su Wangliang surveyed the courtyard before him. It belonged to an ordinary family. His ears twitched, but he heard no sounds emanating from within. In an instant, Su Wangliang scaled the courtyard wall, finding no trace of anyone inside. The two Su family guardians landed in the courtyard, kicking open the door. It was clean and devoid of any signs of habitation, as if nobody had ever lived there. The sword has been here for a while, Wu Zhangli pointed to a spot, indicating where the aura was most concentrated. It had clearly lingered there for some time. Find the landlord and inquire about the situation here, Su Wangliang instructed gravely. Soon, the landlord, known as the Tooth Man, was summoned. He was taken aback upon seeing Su Wangliang, well aware of the Su family's reputation in Apricot Fen City. Who rented this courtyard? Su Wangliang inquired of the Tooth Man. With a sharp memory, the Tooth Man meticulously described the appearance of the person who had rented the courtyard at the time. Sergeant Wu stood by, silent. Given the circumstances, it was unlikely they would discover the culprit's true identity. Most likely, it was a disguise. Su Wangliang understood this well, but he refused to let any possibility slip away. After the Tooth Man departed, Su Wangliang turned to Wu Zhangli. That weapon was not discarded, which is a positive sign. If the culprit has not left Apricot Fen City, we can find him. Wu Zhangli hurriedly spoke. I must rely on you once more, esteemed Elder Wu. Of course, of course. Wu Zhangli smiled apologetically and summoned his goo worm. Extending his hand, he pointed forward, and the goo worm circled the courtyard before flying out. The group followed closely, and soon, the goo worm arrived at another courtyard. Su Wangliang's brows furrowed. He sensed that there was no one inside the courtyard. He leaped over the walls, confirming his suspicions. This culprit is exceedingly cautious. Su Wangliang's words seemed to hang in the air. This wily rabbit had more than one burrow, further fueling his anger. Squeak! The goo worm emitted a long cry. Upon hearing it, Sergeant Li's face brightened. The scent here is 2 days old. It's likely that the person hasn't left Apricot Fen City. Excellent. Su Wangliang nodded, and Chang Li promptly commanded the goo worm to continue tracking. However, after circling the courtyard for a while, it did not fly out. Wu Zhangli's expression changed, and he emitted a strange long cry, similar to the sound of a goo worm. The goo worm responded a few times, and Wu Zhangli frowned. Given the limited intelligence of goo worms, Wu Zhangli could only communicate with them in simple terms. The result of their recent communication was that this was the last place where the goo worm had detected the sword's aura. What's the matter? Su Wangliang inquired. It appears that the sword has vanished, Wu Zhangli stammered. This conclusion seemed incredulous, but it was the information he had received from the goo worm. Su Wangliang's countenance darkened as if blood was going to explode from his eyes. In the courtyard, Chen Fei practiced a simple sword technique, wielding a tree branch. The blade and longbow had been stored within Chen Fei's space grid. He was unsure if the Su family possessed any means of investigation, as the blade would undoubtedly serve as a marker. Chen Fei was worried that disposing of it willy-nilly would only increase the chances of discovery. Melting it down was also risky, as the blacksmith shop might report it. The potential gains did not outweigh the potential losses. He chose to place it in the space grid, confident that the Su family had no means to breach its restrictions. Due to the grid's sensitivity, Chen Fei had relocated to another courtyard after saving Qi Defeng, taking the opportunity to organize the items within the space grid. He spent considerable time there before returning to this courtyard. Chen Fei had refrained from refining pills and assumed the guise of an ordinary martial artist. The Su family had sent search parties, but after Chen Fei bribed them with several taels of silver, they left. The search teams of the Su family were lucrative positions. Each family would bribe them with a few taels, resulting in substantial earnings. As a result, the search process was mostly ceremonial. They held no hope of finding the culprit through this method. Cultivating Sword 5 can severely injure or even kill someone in the marrow tempering realm. However, it seems a bit exaggerated for someone like He Yuan Kaiu, who was in the marrow tempering realm, Chen Fei pondered as he observed the branch in his hand. The battle from that day replayed in his mind. In the past few days, Chen Fei had been reflecting upon the gains and losses of the battle, as well as assessing the strengths and weaknesses of his martial arts techniques. Only through real life and death battles could one truly uncover their shortcomings. The courtyard gate creaked open, and Chi Defeng returned. Even though several days had passed, his injuries had already healed. He occasionally ventured out to procure food and gather information. Chen Fei glanced up and noticed Chi Defeng's slightly furrowed brow. Pingying County has fallen, Chi Defeng spoke in a low voice. Chen Fei was taken aback, though he had long anticipated such an outcome. When he heard the news, he couldn't help but feel a tinge of emotion. How did you find out? Did someone from Pingying County manage to escape to Apricot Fen City? Chen Fei inquired. Chi Defeng nodded, placing the food he had obtained on the stone table. He poured 2 cups of wine, drinking one himself before releasing a long sigh. Chen Fei took a seat and began drinking with Chi Defeng. Chen Fei couldn't even handle a slightly stronger evil, let alone a malevolent storm like the one that had befallen Pingying County. It was a testament to his own weakness. Despite his knowledge, he was unable to change the outcome. This was the plight of the weak, a predicament faced by most people in this world. Willow blossoms fluttered in the wind, and Wu Ji served wine, inviting guests to partake. As Chen Fei and Chi Defeng were lost in thought, their wine glasses were continuously refilled. Chi Defeng took advantage of the alcohol to recount his story. It was a mundane tale devoid of twists and turns or entanglements. Chi Defeng was simply a young man yearning to explore the world. Chi Defeng spoke intermittently, and Chen Fei listened attentively until Chi Defeng burst into raucous laughter, leaning on the table. 5 days passed in the blink of an eye. Chaos reigned within the city, and the Su family persisted in their search until the arrival of the immortal cloud caravan in Apricot Fen City. 1,000 taels per person. Chen Fei found it incredulous. Chi Defeng nodded in confirmation. Chen Fei gazed skyward, contemplating the situation. The immortal cloud caravan could have resorted to force, yet they chose to sell tickets instead. Chapter 63, Chapter 63, Huge Profits. Chapter 63, Huge Profits. Eventually, Chen Fei and Chi Defeng made the decision to follow the immortal cloud caravan, primarily for the sake of safety. The encounters with the evil beings on their journey to Apricot Fen City had left a deep impression on Chen Fei. He didn't want to experience such danger again. The red tokens used by the immortal cloud caravan cost 1,000 taels each. If they were to travel with other smaller merchant groups and accidentally use one, it would result in a loss. The immortal cloud caravan clearly understood the value of these tokens, which was why they dared to ask for such a high price. Upon arriving at the base of the immortal cloud merchant band, Chen Fei and Chi Defeng were greeted by a bustling crowd. Most of the people were there to trade with the caravan, while only a small portion intended to follow along. Even so, this small group consisted of nearly 100 people. Just like that, they'd earned more than 100,000 taels, Chen Fei said, a tinge of envy in his voice. Although Chen Fei could already refine the eternal floating pill and the profits were decent, it would still take several months to accumulate such a large sum. Moreover, he couldn't afford to slack off. Additionally, if there were such significant benefits, it would likely attract trouble. However, holding onto the money without utilizing it felt uncomfortable. The immortal cloud caravan will depart in 3 days. It's not just 100,000 taels, Chi Defeng sighed. He, too, had a fondness for money and had managed to save up a considerable amount. However, when compared to the immortal cloud caravan, his savings were insignificant. We'll be leaving at 3 days from now. This token is recognized, but the person is not, a representative from the immortal cloud merchant band explained as he accepted the payment from Chen Fei and the others. They didn't ask for their names or origins, as those details were unimportant to the caravan. Thank you so much. Chen Fei expressed his gratitude, cupping his hands and examining the cloud pattern on the token. Replicating it wouldn't be difficult, but there might be additional features that could be recognized by the immortal cloud caravan. Not many people would dare to use a counterfeit token, as they risked being exposed and facing severe consequences. The two of them left the place. With the arrival of the immortal cloud merchant band, Apricot Fen City, which had been quiet, once again buzzed with activity. The streets were filled with people. Suddenly, a figure appeared to be walking hurriedly and bumped into Chen-Fei. Chen-Fei swiftly sidestepped and caught hold of the person's hand. "Hey, let go of my hand. What are you doing?" Su Liu's face turned pale from the pain. He tried to break free, but it felt as if his arm was clamped in a vice, rendering him immobile. "Even if you're stealing, you should choose your targets carefully." Chen-Fei glanced at Su Lu and flung him away with his right hand. Su Lu fell to the ground, blood streaming from his head. Realizing that he had encountered someone he couldn't handle, Su Lu didn't dare to cause a scene. After getting up, he slinked away into the crowd, dejected. "He probably saw our tokens," Qi Defeng chuckled, shaking his head. The immortal cloud caravan only recognized the tokens. Stealing one of these tokens was worth 1,000 taels of silver. If unused, it could be sold for several hundred taels. It was a lucrative business. "It seems that there will be plenty of thefts in Apricot Fen City in the next few days," Chen-Fei shook his head. "Some martial artists would likely rely on their strength to steal directly or even snatch forcefully." The two of them strolled through the streets, making various purchases. The journey to Immortal Cloud City would take more than 10 days, and the Immortal Cloud Caravan wouldn't provide food and water. After taking a few turns in different alleys to lose any followers, Chen-Fei and Qi Defeng returned to their courtyard. At the Guest Immortal restaurant. "It's an honor to have Supervisor Dong here today," Su Wangliang greeted Dong Yi with a cup of wine, displaying his politeness. "The caravan still has matters to attend to. If you have something to say, go ahead," Dong Yi responded with an aloof expression. He had been invited to the banquet by a good friend but had already learned about Su Wangliang's recent troubles. He didn't want to get involved unnecessarily. "My son was killed, and this grudge is irreconcilable. I seek a favor from Supervisor Dong," Su Wangliang said, his expression gloomy. He placed a stack of banknotes on the table, pushing it toward Dong Yi. Dong Yi instinctively glanced at the silver notes. Each one was worth 1,000 taels of silver, and the stack before him amounted to no less than 10,000 taels. This was a significant sum, enough to soften Dong Yi's expression considerably. Although the Immortal Cloud Caravan received 1,000 taels per person, earning over 200,000 taels in 3 days, the money belonged to the caravan. Dong Yi, as the overseer, couldn't benefit from it. However, the 10,000 taels could be his. "I've heard about your son. However, the thief is cunning, and you haven't been able to find him despite your efforts for many days. I want to help, but I'm unsure how," Dong Yi replied. "That thief must still be in Apricot Fen City, awaiting an opportunity to leave. If I get close enough, I have a method to find him. Hence, I hope Supervisor Dong can grant me the favor of delaying the caravan for a while, allowing me to locate the thief," Su Wangliang explained with a grim expression. Based on Wu Zhangli's deductions, Su Wangliang had investigated many caravans recently but hadn't found any leads. The most likely possibility was that the person was waiting for the Immortal Cloud Caravan. Wu Zhangli claimed that if he could get close enough, the Gu Worm would be able to locate the person. Thus, Su Wangliang invited Dong Yi to the banquet, hoping for his assistance. If it were any other small merchant group, it wouldn't be so troublesome. Su Wangliang's own strength would be sufficient to force compliance. However, after the Immortal Cloud Caravan's failure, Su Wangliang lacked both the power and audacity to exert force. He could only rely on his connections. "The payment from those people has already been collected." "You're making things difficult for me," Dong Yi frowned. 1,000 taels per person was already a high price. Selling the slots again 3 days later would be unsightly. Although Dong Yi was a supervisor, he didn't want to do anything that would tarnish the caravan's reputation. I understand that the others in the caravan have been working hard recently. I have no ulterior motives. I just wanted to buy some drinks as a gesture of apology for delaying their time and having them accompany me in the search. These additional 5,000 taels is my way of making amends, Su Wangliang said, placing another stack of silver notes worth 5,000 taels on the table. I can't possibly accept this. Dong Yi shook his head, looking at Su Wangliang. However, his actions were not slow. He swiftly concealed the 35,000 taels in his sleeve. Thank you for your assistance, Supervisor Dong, Su Wangliang said with a smile as he watched Dong Yi accept the money. Chapter 64, Flying Ascent Pill. Chapter 64, Flying Ascent Pill. Of course. That thief who killed your son must be an extremely ruthless individual. If such a person were to hide among the others on the caravan, it would undoubtedly spell disaster. Now that I have the opportunity to find him early, I should be the one thanking you. Dong Yi chuckled heartily. You're too kind, Supervisor Dong, Su Wangliang replied, quickly pouring a cup of wine for Dong Yi. This is the guest immortal brew. Very well, Dong Yi said with a smile as he picked up his wine glass. After 3 rounds of wine, Su Wangliang bid farewell and took his leave. As Su Wangliang departed, the smile on Dong Yi's face faded, and he called over his subordinates. 3 days from now, Su Wangliang will lead his men in the search for the culprit. When the time comes, take these 1,000 taels and distribute them to those who purchased the waste tokens as compensation. Understood, Supervisor Ren Yi, the subordinate quickly responded, flattering Dong Yi. When the time comes, I don't want to hear any complaints or gossip. That will be all. You may leave, Dong Yi waved his hand, and his subordinate promptly bowed and departed. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. The Su family had ceased their city-wide search as if they had given up. During these few days, Chen Fei and Qi Defeng remained within the courtyard and did not venture elsewhere. Qi Defeng took the opportunity to recuperate his body, as he had recently sustained injuries and would soon embark on a long journey, which would be quite taxing. Meanwhile, Chen Fei made the most of his time by cultivating diligently. First and foremost, he had achieved great completion in his mastery of the shocking swallowing art. Not only had his inner strength increased through the circulation of the cultivation technique, but the most significant advantage was that the number of pills he could consume daily had reached a new level. Prior to reaching the bone-tempering realm, Chen Fei had been able to consume 4 eternal floating pills per day. After reaching the bone-tempering realm, he could now ingest 5 without affecting his cultivation technique's efficiency. Now that the shocking swallowing art had reached great completion, Chen Fei's limit had soared to 7 eternal floating pills per day, thanks to the boost in inner strength cultivation provided by the technique. Although the effectiveness of the eternal floating pills had slightly diminished after breaking through to the bone-tempering realm, consuming 7 per day, combined with the inner strength cultivation enhancement from the shocking swallowing art, was still a significant advantage. Based on Chen Fei's estimation, reaching the marrow-tempering realm, which required a progress bar of 100,000, would only take about 1.5 years to complete. Such rapid progress was a result of having a superior cultivation technique. Achieving the marrow-tempering realm within a year and a half far exceeded the expectations of ordinary rogue cultivators. Based on Chen Fei's observations, many martial artists were unable to reach the marrow-tempering realm throughout their entire lives due to limited talent and inadequate cultivation techniques. Those who managed to reach it were often already quite old. For instance, He Yuan Kaiu, the man Chen Fei had killed a few days ago, had barely broken through to the marrow-tempering realm at the age of 50. However, Chen Fei's cultivation speed was so astonishing that he had to pay a hefty price for medicinal pills. Consuming 7 eternal floating pills in one day was equivalent to 200 taels of silver. In 1 year, This equated to 70,000 taels of silver. This far exceeded the wealth that an average rogue cultivator could accumulate. Only individuals like Chen Fei, who could refine pills themselves, could sustain their cultivation needs and even amass a significant amount of silver. In addition to cultivating his inner strength, Chen Fei made every effort to utilize his time efficiently. He spent his time studying a book on herbs. This was not without reason, as he aimed to deduce the pill formula for the Flying Ascension pill. The Flying Ascension pill was the most potent pill among the 5 realms of body refinement. In Apricot Fen City, only a few shops sold it. Its pill formula held significant value and was extremely difficult to refine. Many pill refiners capable of producing eternal floating pills struggled to comprehend the basics of the Flying Ascension pill. Naturally, the price of the Flying Ascension pill was exorbitant. Each pill was priced at 100 taels, more than 3 times the cost of an eternal floating pill. Since Chen Fei did not possess any remnant formulas this time, he started studying the herbal book. By gaining a deeper understanding of the herb's medicinal properties, he would have a higher chance of success when deducing the formulas in reverse. Even if not for deducing the Flying Ascension pill, a better understanding of the herb's properties would enable Chen Fei to directly refine other types of pills. In short, there was no harm in expanding his knowledge in this area. In the early morning, the Immortal Cloud Caravan station was already bustling with people. The crowd consisted of itinerant cultivators who had purchased their train tickets. While the Immortal Cloud Merchant Band did not provide food, they did offer carriages. Although a bit crowded, the cultivators endured it in order to reach Xianyuan City. Chen Fei stood amidst the crowd, listening to the conversations around him. Suddenly, the entire caravan fell silent. Chen Fei turned his head to see what had caused the commotion and his eyes narrowed. He exchanged glances with Qi Defeng. The caravan's manager, Dong Yi, had arrived. Accompanying him were Su Wangliang and Wu Changli. Caravans are meant for the righteous, not for evildoers. Someone murdered Brother Su's son. I am here to conduct an investigation. I apologize for any inconvenience caused, Dong Yi announced loudly. The crowd looked at each other uneasily, unsure of how to respond. If there are murderers among us, then we should investigate as soon as possible, a few voices spoke up from the crowd. Around 20 individuals voiced their agreement, which somewhat eased the discomfort felt by the rest of the people. Dong Yi smiled at Su Wangliang, pleased with the response. Su Wangliang signaled to Wu Zhangli, who did not dare to waste any time. He summoned the goo worm from his arms. The blood-sensing goo worm. Qi Defeng's pupils widened slightly, struggling to maintain his composure. He refrained from looking in Chen Fei's direction, fearing that it would draw attention. However, he was extremely anxious. Chen Fei heard Qi Defeng's whisper and overheard the surrounding crowd discussing the goo worm. He understood its function to track the scent left on weapons through bloodstains. Chen Fei felt his horizons expanding, and he felt fortunate about his earlier decision. Sensing Qi Defeng's unease, Chen Fei discreetly moved his finger, releasing a stream of energy that gently brushed against Qi Defeng's sleeve. Qi Defeng was momentarily startled before regaining his composure. This was the secret signal they had established beforehand. The goo worm circled in the air for a while but showed no intention of flying toward the crowd. Instead, it hissed at Wu Zhangli. Wu Zhangli's expression changed, and he stole a glance at Su Wangliang, swallowing nervously. He then proceeded to walk the goo worm past the itinerant cultivators, one by one. The peculiar appearance of the goo worm raised a few eyebrows among the cultivators as it passed them. Wu Zhangli led the goo worm through the crowd, and some cultivators began to frown slightly. However, as the goo worm continued without incident, the discomfort lessened. Qi Defeng, feigning nonchalance, breathed a sigh of relief as the goo worm passed by without any reaction, even in front of Chen Fei. A short while later, the goo worm reached the end of the itinerant cultivators, having inspected them all. Captain Wu stood in front of Su Wangliang and shook his head. Su Wangliang, with a dark expression, looked at the cultivators with a sense of frustration. He had a gut feeling that his son's killer was among them, yet he couldn't identify the culprit. Su Wangliang clenched his fists tightly before reluctantly releasing them. "We will be departing in 15 minutes, Dong Yi announced, his gaze fixed on Su Wangliang. This was the most he could do. Chen Fei observed Su Wangliang's receding figure and smiled. 15 minutes later, the immortal cloud caravan set off. Chen Fei sat in a corner of the carriage, listening to the conversations around him. An elderly man seated in front of him caught his attention. "Judging by your appearances, you're all heading to the immortal cloud sword sect, right? However, entering the immortal cloud sword sect won't be an easy feat." Chapter 65, Phoenix Crown and Royal Cape. Chapter 65, Phoenix Crown and Royal Cape. "Sir, have you visited Immortal Cloud City before?" The old man's question filled the carriage with silence. Known to rule over the sects within 1,000 miles radius, the Immortal Cloud Sword sect was revered for its incomparable might. Driven by the influential Immortal Cloud Sword sect, the Immortal Cloud City had slowly prospered into an influential power. The youngsters in the carriage brought up on talcs of the legendary sect naturally held a profound yearning for it. "In my youth, I did reside in Immortal Cloud City for several years," the old man responded, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. "However, it was a hard life, leading me to wander for a while. Lately, chaos has taken over, which made me consider retiring back to Immortal Cloud City. Sir, could you provide some insights into the Immortal Cloud Sword sect? Are they highly selective when it comes to accepting disciples?" a voice implored impatiently. "Well, for prodigious martial artists, the standards aren't too stringent. However, for the common folk, it might seem rather daunting." The old man shook his head, continuing, "To be a part of the Immortal Cloud Sword sect, there are certain prerequisites related to ego, fundamental skills, and comprehension. You either meet all the criteria or possess an extraordinary talent that stands out among others. Without this, the gates of the Immortal Sword sect remain closed. Could you elaborate, sir?" Upon this request, Chen Fei retrieved a bottle of wine from his bag and handed it to the old man. The elder took a sniff of the wine, and his eyes lit up. "Young man, your generosity is commendable," he chuckled, taking a gulp of wine. He then turned to the group, saying, "You can easily discover these requirements once you reach Immortal Cloud City. Nonetheless, since you express interest now, I shall oblige." The carriage fell silent, all eyes turned toward the old man. Basking in the attention, the elder started. "First, one has to be under 15 years of ago. Even if one is older, they cannot be more than 20, and they must have reached the marrow tempering realm. Under 20 and at the marrow tempering realm." This information sent shockwaves through the carriage. Even in a city like Apricot Fen, a marrow tempering martial artist was considered an elite. They were honored guests wherever they went. In Apricot Fen City, most marrow tempering realm practitioners were over 40. Anyone in their 30s was deemed an exceptional talent with the potential to reach the visceral tempering realm in the future. Yet, at the Immortal Cloud Sword sect, one had to reach the marrow tempering realm by their 20s. The mere thought was disconcerting. Chen Fei's face clouded over. He was already 23 this year and had already surpassed the cutoff. Having first started as a peasant, he had eventually migrated to Pingying County to make out a living due to hardship. Yes, indeed. The marrow tempering realm, the old man confirmed, seemingly unfazed by their astonishment. To outsiders, the standards indeed seemed lofty, enough to dissuade most. "Sir, you mentioned the age restriction can be overlooked if one's innate ability and comprehension are extraordinarily high," queried a voice laced with unwilling hope. "Indeed, if you possess exceptional innate ability and comprehension, age isn't a hindrance," the elder confirmed. But he added, however, someone with such high levels of innate ability and comprehension would likely reach the marrow-tempering realm before their 20s, wouldn't they? The carriage was silent again. Of course, the old man continued, there are those who commence their martial arts training later in life, and hence, their cultivation may be slightly weaker. Thus, the immortal cloud sword sect docs provide an opportunity for them. If they pass a specific test, they can be accepted into the immortal cloud sword sect. And how would that work? I can't offer the specifics. Much of what I know is hearsay. When the time comes, you'll understand when you visit the immortal cloud sword sect personally, the elder replied, taking another satisfying swig of wine. Does the immortal cloud sword sect have a set schedule for accepting disciples? Chen Fei queried. Absolutely. They hold tests every month. Given the number of aspirants, regular tests are necessary to recruit new members, the old man replied. Chen Fei ceased his line of questioning, opting to close his eyes and rest. He was aware of his limitations, he had exceeded the age limit and possessed average innate ability. Yet, he hoped his comprehension ability, honed through the interface's simplified function, might tilt the scales in his favor. His talent in comprehension was exceptional, but he was uncertain if it would compensate for the other deficiencies. In reality, you need not fixate solely on the immortal cloud sword sect, the old man added, seeing the young man's troubled face. Numerous sects around the immortal cloud city also recruit disciples. While they may not match the immortal cloud sword sect's reputation, their cultivation techniques are far from weak. What the elder said was true. The immortal cloud sword sect had attracted many fledgling sects to immortal cloud city. These sects were well known elsewhere but paled in comparison to the immortal cloud sword sect. The carriage fell quiet as it moved further away from Apricot Fen City, the path becoming increasingly rugged, jostling the carriage. Chen Fei spent most of his time engrossed in medical books, relishing the understanding of various medicinal herbs' properties. His goal had initially been to derive the flying ascent pill, but now, he found pleasure in acquiring knowledge for its own sake. Look, someone's living there. On the seventh evening, an excited voice broke the silence. To their surprise, they spotted a solitary straw hut on a remote mountain. Don't stare. Get inside quickly, the old man yelled, his face grim. Sir, what's wrong? Someone inquired. Before the old man could reply, another voice exclaimed, the door's open, and there's a bride. Everyone turned to see a woman in ceremonial attire emerge from the hut. So beautiful. An onlooker murmured before reaching up to gouge his own eyes out. Part 4 of the series ends here. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe so we can be motivated to make even better videos in the future.